greatest co-host in the world. What's 2K99? Get ready to rumble!
The tag team champions of the world.
My brotherly crevasse.
That is the best intro I have ever received.
The world. The Buffalo Jets man.
Yo.
George Fant is a barely above replacement level, pretty good left tackle.
How can you say
Compare
that when
that
he
to
was
an-
top 3 in sack percentage last year for left tackles?
And I think when in doubt, until you have better reason, go with the optimistic view. And our defensive line is going to be giving a lot of people some trouble.
But yeah, it's got to be, I'm with you. I don't like the Nathan's fries when they're like floppy. It's got to be like done really well, you know. It's very hard to teach 6'3" and 4.3 speed. That's very rare. The talent's there. He's just got to put it together mentally.
Right.
To get
You're a
on
cheater.
to you, I'm a cheater.
Well, hello and happy Friday. It is Friday daytime. What am I doing on there? How am I here? Well, I'm off work and I feel like we're closing in to some potentially big news. We'll find out. But I do want to say, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and when I say, is the deal coming today? What I really want to talk about is the baloney Main Street media, these jokes, this guy Sheffer, these cowards. And I call him a coward, this guy Sheffer, Chef, because every time he sits there and says, a deal is imminent and is going to happen any second. See, he's a weasel because what's happening is he knows nothing. And his biggest fear is the deal is going to be announced and he didn't say that. And he's going to have to pretend he's not surprised. Right? Because he has to act like he knows things. He has to create this illusion that he knows things. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't. They're not talking to him. The people at the table negotiating this deal are not talking to him. They're not. But he needs to tell you something because he's on the NFL Network and he's got his shirt and tie. And they're saying, is a deal happening? And then he has to lie. And he has to sit there and say, well, they're haggling over a 2025 return pick from the Jets in case Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, blah, blah, blah. But word is it's a small detail and a deal is imminent and will be announced soon. Understand what happens is if for 2 weeks there's no deal, then the little weasel backs out and says, well, and he'll just make something else up. There was a blocker in the deal. They were worried about something and they're arguing, but a deal is imminent and will happen. You see, he could say that every day. And he will say that every day. So when the deal finally happens, he could sit there and say, well, yesterday or a few hours ago, I reported that the deal was imminent and now it's happened. So he tries to make himself look like somebody who's any different than the rest of us, who has information that we don't know. The truth is, the only information he has is he has contacts like agents. And he has access to teams. So when the team announces something or the agents of a player are ready to go public with something, yes, he and some other people, Diana, Rousseff, whatever her name is, they have access to those people and they find out, but all they are is a middleman. That if that agent didn't have their number, they would have somebody else's number. They could have Matt O'Leary's number. Say, hey, Matt O'Leary, we did this deal. Can you we're just letting you know. Tell everybody, tell the world. It doesn't even, they don't want you to have that reality or that understanding that they're just, somebody has to be the one you tell if you're an agent or something like that. But the agents aren't telling anyone anything, because the agents of the players, like Aaron Rodgers' agent, doesn't even know. Maybe they get little updates, like, we're still talking. That's what they get. The only people that know are the people that are sitting in the room. Now, is there a chance that the people because we know our room, we know JD and the way he behaves and the way he carries his organization. He does not spread rumors or play that game. He is a genuine business person with ethics. He comes in, he says, we don't talk about this, we negotiate. I can't say the same thing about Green Bay because I don't know their management. I don't know them personally, and I don't know how they operate. But I do know that if they slip things to the media, it might be because they want to try to get leverage. It's kind of childish. It doesn't really work, and it's not going to get them anywhere. Now, can a deal happen today? Yes. A deal could happen in 5 minutes. I might find out because V-Man in the chat says a deal just happened, because he's tied into Twitter and he sees the Ian Rappaport message go up that the trade happened. It could happen at any minute. Of course it could happen at any minute. They're negotiating. But the reality is it's not any more likely to happen in the next minute than it is on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. Now, there is a time where the chances or the probability of a deal taking place will increase. I believe it's when we get closer to the draft, and for obvious reasons. Because whatever compensation we're offering Green Bay or that we're haggling over, future picks in future drafts like 2024, 2025 do not have the value. There's even a point system where you could check that. They don't have the same value as picks that are now coming up in the draft next month. So I do believe that if a deal does not happen in the next couple of days, or if it's not going to happen in the next few days, the likelihood of a deal increases as we get closer to the draft. And specifically, if nothing happens within 48 hours before the draft, buckle your seatbelts, because there's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure that both teams are going to put on each other. The Jets are going to say, hey, we're fine. Just if we don't have a deal, we don't have a deal. I guess we just will negotiate picks for next year. And Green Bay is going to fight right back, and they're going to say, well, if that happens, you're going to give us a lot more next year. A lot more. And guess what? Green Bay is going to say, we're in no rush. If we miss out on this draft, then we have no time factor. We'll hold Aaron Rodgers till August 1st. And then we'll do a deal, and you can have a quarterback who has had no training camp with you. So the leverage kind of shifts. But no matter what happens, Green Bay would get no compensation to help their team this year. I'm sure, even if it's not the compensation that they most desire, let's say it's a second-round pick. It's a huge second-round pick. 42, 43. Those are tremendous picks. There are going to be impact players in that part of the draft. There'll be some good wide receivers still on the board. If they want a running back, there'll be running backs on the board. If they're looking for a defensive tackle, there'll certainly be a good defensive tackle or two on the board. There's going to be really good players. Tight ends, maybe they want to get Jordan Love, a really good tight end, receiving tight end. Its draft is rich with tight end. Maybe they want an edge. Lots of edge in this draft. So the pick is valuable, and they're going to want it. There's going to be a lot of pressure. So I would predict that a deal is going to happen before the draft. It could happen in a minute, or it could happen the day of the draft. But without question, each day that we get closer to the draft, the odds obviously go up because there's that window that's getting smaller. And that's what I Think about that. Just want to say hello to people in the chat. Dakota was the first person here. He doesn't think the deal is going to happen now. I wish it would when I'm off from work, because I know it's going to happen while I'm at work. All the other providers will be on with a billion people watching, and they'll get the excitement to celebrate with you. And I'm going to be stuck at work, not able to do anything until I get home. My luck, it'll be a Wednesday. And then when I go on for my Wednesday show, every single jet provider in the world will be on, and it's going to destroy my Wednesday show. But that's just the woe is me crybaby that I am. R&R, it's good to see you here. You think it's going to be one of these days? VR Hidalgo says, sooner rather than later, these media types are trumped by meteorologists, 50% of rain. Exactly. It's just, I mean, that's all it is. They're not really saying anything. Thomas, I am home in Sacramento. That's where I am. I'll be back in North Carolina in June at some point, mid-June or actually later June to early July. It's happening tomorrow, and everyone will think it's a joke. There's a good chance that people won't believe it. People are going to check, is this the right account? Is this, but you got to know on Twitter who you can believe. It's not just the blue check mark. It's got to be the guys that typically get the information from the teams or the agents and report it, like Ian Rappaport. Typically, if he announces something, he doesn't announce it unless he has complete confirmation. Super Leroy is in the house. Johnny G is in the house. Yeah, I got some lungs. You're not the first person to point that out. Jesse P in the house. Look, it would be nice if it would happen and we could start getting those free agents in house. No more 49ers chaos. No more. I gave up that dream. V-Man. Have you tried Puerto Rican food? Next time you're in NYC, try out freaking Rican in Queens. I was in Puerto Rico for a wedding. So I was in Old San Juan, and we were in there for 5 days, and we ate in so many different Puerto Rican restaurants. I got to say my favorite thing in Puerto Rico was the breakfast, because it seems like every breakfast place makes fresh pastries. The pastries were really good. We got a little tired of the food. Like the mofongo, by like day 3, we were like, okay, I got it. It's like, I get it. Now, can I have a hamburger, some pizza? But I enjoyed it. Queens, Germany is Brooklyn all the way. Well, the best Puerto Rican and / Dominican food in New York to me was always the Upper West Side. Like when you go far up on the Upper West Side, that's where you found those great places. A place by Columbia Hospital called El Presidente. That was a really good place. Brown, Tomlinson, and GW are only returning defensive starters who played more than 9 games, adding 8 starters, a new system, blocking scheme, and coordinator isn't a bright idea. That doesn't sound like a great idea. You want continuity. They're longtime friends. Well, that's good to know. But they still have to represent their team the best way. You know what I mean? They still have to do what's best for their team. So there's still, I could sit there and negotiate with Green Bean over a chicken cutlet Parm Hero that I got at LMB. And I could sit there holding the Parm Hero, and Green Bean might have a square pie, and he's fighting and saying, I'll give you 2 slices for half your pie. And I might say, I want 3. And we could be the best of friends, but that doesn't mean we might have a stare down and not want to give in. So you never know. Hopefully, okay, well, Joe Campione showed up. I retired early, have lots of free time. There you go. You're lucky. I can't wait till I'm retired. I'm not one of those people worried about what retirement's going to look like. I welcome retirement. I welcome it. I'll break out my old Atari 2600, my old Intellivision. I'll break out all those games. And I will welcome retirement and doing nothing but playing video games and whatever else I want. Ian is a little weasel. If you're talking about Jet Central, I don't know why. What did he do? I won't know anything, trust me. V-Man. Snoopy is in the house. It's Snoopy. What do you think, Snoopy? Are we going to get Aaron Rodgers today? Is it going to happen while I'm home where I can react to it? I think I want this done before the draft for their draft strategy. Well, I mean, if it's not done, it's not done. We'll have a strategy. I mean, we have a board, right? JD, but you say they want it. Yeah, well, they need it done not just for that. They need to know if they have the money. That's the one thing. If it doesn't happen by the draft and then it doesn't happen by June, that's the one leverage we continue to have on them, is then they don't know about the money, right? Because you can't start signing guys that cost you a lot of money until, go over the cap until those guys are gone. So it's like, what do they do? Because right now, if they hold on to them, they're tied to like 60 million against their cap. It's some crazy number. They can't release them. That would be the worst case scenario for them. Like they absolutely have no leverage in that. So they can't make a single move other than the draft until this deal is done, because they just don't know. Do they have these millions of dollars on their books or not? A deal is going to get done. And I don't think JD's unreasonable. I don't think he's being a douche. I don't think he's sitting there saying, we're not going to give you anything because you have no choice. Ha, ha, ha. I think he's happy to pay a price. I do. I think he's happy to be fair and to give some value to them because we're getting some value. I do. I don't think he's being ridiculous, but I think he's sticking to his guns of what that value is. It's certainly not pick 13. And it never was going to be 13, and it shouldn't be 13. Like, it makes no sense for it to be 13. Give a premier pick and a draft for a guy who might play 1 year. You just can't do it. Plus, we need that 13th pick because it's going to make our team better. And the whole idea of getting Aaron Rodgers, if it's only 1 year, is to put the best team on the field as possible in order to win a Super Bowl. Because if Aaron Rodgers comes for 1 year, we don't win the Super Bowl, it was all for naught. I mean, yeah, feel good to win games, feel good to make the playoffs, but I'm sorry, it's Super Bowl or bust. And if we gave up the 13th pick, or we're giving up tons of draft capital, and he comes and we lose in the second game of the playoffs or something, we could sit there all we want and pat ourselves on the back for ending the playoff drought. But then now we're sitting there with what? No quarterback, and we lost draft capital. We lost talent for our team. So that makes it harder to recover and rebuild and make our next run. So there's got to be a limit. JD's got to stick to his guns and have a limit to what he's willing to give. It's just that simple. Yeah, not to mention, though, the longer this plays out, the more of a bad look it is from Green Bay. No question about it. Who would want to sign with Green Bay when they treated AR this way? Well, it's just not that. It's their fans. It's the legacy. I mean, it's like, right? I mean, they love, Lambeau Field, the Green Bay Packer backers. I mean, they went through this with Brett Favre, and they were so happy when he came back, and they don't want to go through this drama again, for sure. But they do want their picks. So it's not that they don't have some understanding, all right? But it's just a matter of, you got to be responsible and realistic to what you're entitled to. We're taking $60 million. Well, actually, if they cut him this year, it's $99 million. We're taking a ton of money off of your hands. We're clearing your books of a crap load of money for a player who doesn't want to be there, who you don't want. And that has to factor into trade compensation. It has to. Also, it has to factor in that he's 39 and doesn't know if he wants to play beyond next year. They have to factor these things in. And if they're not willing to be realistic, we will not cave. Because don't forget, even as bad and as miserable and horrible as it would be if this deal didn't happen, we still are a young team full of crazy talent. We would just it would really stink for this year, but we'd be back to looking for a quarterback, and we'd be back to being a quarterback away. So don't forget that. It's not something I want to think about. I don't want it to happen. But we're not going to give away the future. We're not going to give away any chance of ever having good again for one shot, 1 year, and then just say, now we have nothing. So, I mean, it's just not going to, it's just not going to happen like that. Like they do not have, there's a lot of leverage on both sides. We don't want to throw this season away. We want to win now. But they don't want to soil the relationship between themselves and Aaron Rodgers. They don't want to get stuck with millions of dollars on their books. They don't need a guy in camp that's unhappy, that they don't want. They publicly said they didn't want him. They publicly said he didn't want to be there. They don't want that. That's not good. They both teams have a lot of pressure to get a deal done. So, yeah, it's incestuous how they know each other. All the coaches have had relationships. Anytime we hire a coach, it always turns out there's some connection between them. I mean, it's a small little world they have there in the management, the NFL management, coaching, general management world. It's small. They know each other. So, what's up, Grandizer? Good to see you, man. Puerto Ricans unite for Aaron. I'm sure that I don't think nationality matters for Jet fans. I think that the Jets are for sure. Jet fans for sure. The consensus is that Aaron Rodgers will be a very good thing. Fulham Jets. You a Kings fan, Jeremy? Second. I mean, I'm a Knicks fan, but I do root for the Kings. We go to games. Before the pandemic, I was going to a lot. I got a buddy with season tickets who didn't use them a lot. They're really good 100 level seats. So he would always just give them to me and my wife when we'd go to games. The new arena is nice if you're sitting on the 100 level. It was built really crappy and scary if you're sitting high up because it's super steep. My wife's an OT and she complains this is a hazard. Someone's going to get killed here. And sure enough, a couple of people have fallen, like older people trying to get up there. But other than that, in the 100s level, it's a very nice arena. And I've been pulling for the Kings, but man, it's shocking that it's this year. I thought that it was 3 or 4 years ago that the Kings had a good chance when they first got Fox. And they had that big guy who didn't work out, that guy from Duke. And then it all kind of fell apart on him. And now all of a sudden, they made some good trades and they got Sergio, whatever his name is, Sergio, and they're good. They're just a good team. It's not loaded. Fox has evolved and developed. It's not so much superstars as much as it is they're just playing really well as a team. So I do root for them, not over the Knicks, but I do root for them. It's fun when Sacramento's doing well. It's fun. It's not like New York. New York, I'm sure the Knicks, when a New York team does well, it's a lot crazier. Here, it's more of a transient kind of small town city. So it's like in the city in Midtown, it's all these kind of transient people, kind of like Williamsburg, Brooklyn kind of feel, like in the sense that people aren't like bleeding Sacramento here. They just like the places and this is a cool small town, kind of cool place to ride to live. But it's not like the locals, the surrounding areas, the neighborhoods around here that are more the surrounding neighborhoods are very passionate about the Kings. So they're a little bit more into it. And I'm into it just because it's our only professional sports team and I'm a 20-minute walk from the Coliseum. So when I could walk 20 minutes and go to games, I'm going to get into the team to some extent. So thanks, man. That video is doing horrible so far. I could use some support later on if you guys want to go and check out my video. I do an In-N-Out burger review. So I review In-N-Out burger. I thought it would do better, but I think I'm just not timing it right. Because it's a new channel and I don't know when that audience, I haven't learned the best time to release videos as far as food reviews are concerned. But the channel's picking up. I mean, our lower videos get 40, 45 views, but we have a few that broke 100 and we just released the channel under a month ago. So, we just got to win the favor of YouTube and algorithms so that the videos get out there and show up in people's feeds more. And hopefully it'll work out. And hopefully in 6 months, we won't get frustrated and quit and give up. So someone's going to be at Hilton Head. That's cool. So, it's an interesting strategy, but we've done that so many times. So how many times could we do that? How many times could we blow a season and say, root for them to just stink because next year is a good draft with quarterbacks. And then we miss like we did with Zach. Then we just miss. We draft some quarterback who's supposed to be great next year, and then they suck too. And then there we are. And then by that time, our window is over. JD is gone and been fired. And we're just back to being the lousy Jets. No, I think we got to make a run now. We got to get Aaron Rodgers. We got to get a real quarterback to make a run with this team. We have stars right now on this team, and we need to make a run. And the only way to do that is to get Aaron Rodgers in here. Green Bay, bad luck. They need to do the right thing for Aaron, who served him so well. I'm Tom Brady with the Bucks. I think the Patriots just let him go. Yeah, I mean, that would be the classy thing to do. They're not being classy. They're being very greedy. They're being very greedy. They had him for 17, 18, 19 years or whatever it is. They should just let the guy go, and they should purposely not expect the Jets to give up too much because they want to help Aaron Rodgers have the best chance to go and go out in a glory. So, any chances of this idea of 1 year? I just will lower the price. It's a steep cap hit in the future otherwise. Yeah. Look, I mean, I think like he might end up playing another 2 or 3 years. It's all about if he's happy. So, I mean, if he's enjoying himself with the team and we're winning and it's like different than it was, it's just different. It's a change. He might go a couple more years. I mean, but even just 2 years would be fine. I mean, that's I think our expectation of what we're hoping, that we're hoping that we get a couple of years out of him, a couple of years out of A-Rod. Challenge cravat. Does your local pass the cravat test? What local? What test? Like, are you talking about pizza? Are you talking about a particular kind of food? I don't know what you're saying. You got to fill me in, Duncan, because maybe I'm missing part of this message. I don't know what you're asking me, so I can't answer it, but I am curious to what the question is. I'm a joker. I'm a toker. I'm a midnight joker. It's a good song. I love me some Tom Petty. Oh, it was an idea for me. Like if something passes the local challenge, but what's the idea? Put it on my either type it out here or put it in as a comment on the channel. If Aaron gets to wear 12, do you think he will rock the fur coat on the sideline? No, I don't think he'll do that. Thanks, Hank G. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, brother. But more important than subscribe, I just hope you like it. Like I hope you genuinely watch the videos and enjoy me and my brothers do our reviews. I wouldn't recommend the hot sauce videos. I never like them. I think they're like half an hour, unless you really want to watch us for 40 minutes, hang out. I'm more excited about the if you go to the food reviews channel, like playlist, and you just watch our quick 3 to 4 minute food reviews. I think that's the strength of the channel right now. Well, if you have it, Tigo, you'll explain it to me what the idea is. So I love Duncan. So don't ever be sorry, Duncan. I love you, man. Maybe it's because my eyesight, everything's blurry. I'm looking at a million different texts, but I love you, man. And I will consider ideas. Let's see, just an idea to get you trending. People recommend their local food place with challenge cravat, and they do a review to see if it passes the test. I didn't say it was a great idea. It's a good idea. I would love to think about it more. So, like, you mean in my video, challenge people to say, "Hey, come review this place," and I judge whether they give it the right review. If they review it right, like you're onto something interesting. So, and it might later down the road, Duncan. Like it might be a good idea for something we do when we grow the channel. Like it might, sometimes you don't throw every idea in the beginning. Sometimes maybe it's when we get to 3,000 subscribers or 5,000 subscribers, and we have a lot of people to participate in the areas that me and my brothers live, and then that's what takes us to the next level. We kind of then start doing challenges to people. So sometimes it's not about it's a good or bad idea. It could be a great idea, but it's the wrong timing. I think that right now we just got to get the channel going, and we got to keep it consistent because we're trying to do a video every day, and that's going to be hard to maintain. But I think once it gets going, that could be a really good idea because I think that you have to evolve a channel. You have to start doing things, and I think getting your viewers and your audience interactive, I think is a great idea. I just don't know how many of my subscribers are in Sacramento, so I don't know if there'd be any participation right now. But if we get up to thousands of viewers, maybe I'll have a few hundred people in Sacramento, and my other brother near Portland will have a few hundred people, and my brother in North Carolina will have a few hundred people that are local that know the place and that will send their reviews. So it's a good idea. You're saying other way around, people send you places. Oh, okay. So it's just I ask, where do I go? Send me places. Okay. I guess they do that on David Portnoy. He goes to places because people send them there. People recommend it. I think I just got to remember to ask for that, right? Like I got to remember in the video to say, send me places you want me to go. Like, where would you like me to visit? That sound about right? So, okay. With a hashtag. Oh, cool. Okay. Okay. Tigo will explain it to me more in detail because he's got the whole thing figured out. But I will look, it already started happening. VC Man, V-Man NC already recommended places for me to go. Like he already told me where I have to go. And I got COVID, so I didn't get to go, but I do want to go. So that is already happening naturally, but to make it more formalized and more organized, I think that's a great idea. And like when I travel to New York, in June, I'm going to New York for 1 week, and then I'm going to North Carolina for 2 weeks. So maybe I will New York City, I'll put it out there. I'll say, New York City, tell me where to go. What do you want me to review? And I'll just take all kinds of recommendations. That'll be cool. It's the Sacramento Queens. Well, in the last 17 years, they've played like that, but they're a good team now. So, it's all about what have you done for me lately? And for right now, they've done something. So, like, here's an example. Try Louie and Ernie's Sausage Pie Bronx. Okay. We'll see if I have time in that week because I also got to go upstate and visit the Sullivan County area, and my wife's got to be, it's a whole big thing. She's got to film me. But that's why I'd love to retire, guys. If I was retired, then I'd go back to New York and like have all the time I need. And I would do this. I would travel around the country and go to places, if I could afford to in my retirement. Whether the channel got big or not, it would be a lot of fun. But I will consider these things. I will, because Louie and Ernie's, I think I've heard of them. That's how known they are in the Bronx. I think other people in the Bronx have talked about Louie and Ernie's. So hopefully it's near a train, so I can get to it. Live a little, Jeremy. I've been to other countries, man. I'm not into the whole getting kidnapped thing, but I've been to other countries. My brother's going to go to Greece, and he's going to review a lot of places there in Greece. But getting kidnapped in another country wouldn't be fun. That's kind of, like anytime somebody gets in trouble and arrested in another country and you see it on the news, my stomach turns for them. Like that's the scariest thing in the world. Being like, because in America, there's at least like it's like, okay, I know how it works a little bit. I mean, I would be terrified to go to jail here too, but like to be in another country and get arrested, holy cow. Now I've heard of this. I've heard of Angelo's cold oven pizza because Dave Portnoy from First Bite's been there, so I saw his review. So I'll definitely go to Angelo's. There's no question I'm going to go to Angelo's. There's another place I want to go on the Lower East Side called Sauce, and Dave Portnoy went nuts for them. He was comparing it to John's on Bleecker, but they sell slices, and he said it's like the best slice you can get that he's ever had. He gave it like a 9.1. So I definitely have to go review that. So when I'm in New York, I'm going to do a lot of reviews. I mean, like every meal we eat, my wife's going to record me reviewing it. So I'll have a lot of content then. It's hard in Sacramento because there's so few places here. It's so bad. Overall, there's okay places in Sacramento, but overall, it's horrible. My wife complains about the limited choices all the time. Louie and Ernie's Bronx. Yeah, okay. Like, so everybody, I already highlighted that. Okay. Never had a Brooklyn pizza. How good are they, Jeremy? I had lots of pizza on Long Island, though. Well, I mean, it's not so much a rivalry. People in their own brain can, everybody fights for their local places. This is the best. This is the best. Being honest, a good pizza in New York is a good pizza. So I've had good pizza in Long Island. That's no different than the places in I've had pizza in Long Island that's no different than the places, in Brooklyn. Say, I mean, in Manhattan. And I find that Manhattan pizza, like some of the coal oven and wood oven places are great, but 80% of the places in Manhattan are horrible because of tourism. They're just making cheap pizzas. I mean, it's awful, and it's not like the boroughs. I respect all the boroughs, Queens, Bronx, Brooklyn, because those are the mom and pop places. And I don't know. I mean, I know more places in Brooklyn, but I've been in the other boroughs and I've went into pizza shops, and to me, it's the same feel, and it just depends on the place and it depends on the owners and what kind of pizza they make. So, I don't know. I don't like to categorize by borough and say this borough is better or that borough is better. I don't like to do that. I go by the place. I judge each place by the place. I ate a place in Staten Island called Pizza Giavi with green bean and sack exchange, and it was one of the best pizzas I ever ate in my life. I mean, it was truly just spectacular. So, I used to think Staten Island had a horrible pizza. I'll never say that again. So I don't know. Anybody want to come in here? I need somebody to come in and run the channel for a little bit. Does anyone want to come on to the show? I thought I had somebody that was going to be here and they're not here, and I kind of have to run and do something, and I didn't want to stop the show. So if anybody wants to take over in here and talk, I don't see anybody who's ever been. Oh, Tigo, can you be here, man? Can you come in? Tigo, are you still there? I need you, Tigo. See, sorry guys, I'm kind of like, I don't know if he's there. Tigo, help me. 1 second, guys. See what Tigo has to say about Aaron Rodgers and when he thinks he's going to come. If he's here still. So, I would say that I would go by the place, London Jets fan. Like if you're in Brooklyn, you got to go to L&B. Like if you're in Brooklyn, go to L&B Pizza. It's that simple. And then there's other places too, like Lombardi's and stuff like that. Hey guys, I'm going to bring in some help because I have something I have to attend to and I need to keep the show going. Thanks guys. I have to run. I've got an emergency.
Hey,
Appreciate you guys.
what's up, Adam?
That's about the most awkward transition on a show I think I've ever seen in my life.
For real, man.
I'm literally in the car right now, but that's okay. It's off day for work, out doing deliveries and delivering groceries to the folks who need them. It's kind of what I'm doing on the side. So yeah, but this order can wait a little bit, Antigua. How you doing today? What's going on in your world?
No, nothing. Just hanging out. Baby's fighting to nap, so watching him on the monitor, not want to go to sleep, and just running errands. That's been today. Had a Costco run. That's a dangerous place to end up.
Where's that?
Costco. Like,
oh my gosh, I live across the street from one. Yeah, I'm literally across the street from a Costco. It is indeed dangerous, and the parking lot is about half the size of what it needs to be.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. If you're going there around a holiday or even on a weekend, just forget about it because you're going to be parking like the next street over. The parking is that. So the advantage I have though is I can literally walk across the street, take like a tote bag with me or something, one of those like thermal bags or whatever. I could put a few things in there and walk right back. And it actually works out better that way because otherwise, who goes into Costco for like one item and walks out with just the one item?
Can't do it.
You walk out with half your cart is full, and that's on a good day. That's when you're sticking to your budget. So,
half your cart is full.
So
You've got 4 things, and none of those 4 things are the things you came in for, because for some reason you decided you needed bulk, like cheese crisps. You don't even like cheese like that, but you bought a bag of bulk cheese crisps because it was just too good of a deal.
No, it is absolutely true. And hey, as long as they keep selling the $5 rotisserie chickens and the $1 hot dogs, I'm not going to stop going in. Who am I kidding?
Yeah, I got a massive slice of pizza today and a drink for $3.
There you go. There you go. What do they sell? Hey, what about the food court? Because the food court's like a little bit different everywhere you go, depending on the region that you're in.
We don't
Obviously,
have
you'll
the
have the hot
rotisserie
dog and
chicken.
you'll have the pizza. But do you have anything a little bit weird down there in Florida, the food court?
They have this one. I don't know what it's called because like it's on the menu, but it's like a take on like a Spanish dish, but super Americanized. I don't even know what the name of it is, but it's like a it's almost like a bread mixed with like buffalo shredded chicken, and then they just bake it, and like that's kind of what it is. It's weird, but that's ours is hot dogs, that thing, churros, and pizzas. That's what our Costco is.
Okay, try that again. I didn't hear the end of what you said. I think I got an incoming call, so I had to decline. I think that killed the volume.
No,
This is what happens when I'm not home and I got to do this on the road.
Yeah, no, we have it's the hot dogs, the pizzas, churros, and then it's like I said, it's that weird, like it's like a long bun with like shredded like chicken buffalo thing. No, not the churros. Something else.
Like a buffalo chicken wrap. Oh, a chicken bake?
But it's not a wrap.
The chicken bake?
I have no idea what it's called. But like,
you
guys have a rotisserie chicken. Yeah. We don't have that.
Okay. They used to have like this turkey and provolone sandwich, which was really good. It had like a basil pesto aioli and red onions, Swiss cheese. It was a good turkey sandwich, but that went away during COVID. But that was a pretty dang good sandwich. So yeah, so it's I can't see the chat, so if you can, you'll have to let me know what's going on over here. But anything that's on the people's minds today? What does everybody want to talk? I'm going to be like Cody Rhodes since it's WrestleMania. So what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, Costco is overrated. Ooh. Well, like, are you talking about like their Costco food or like Costco in general? Because like saving money on bulk.
Yeah, certainly not the gas prices.
Yeah, that too. The propane.
Yeah. You can't knock that. Is it true? I heard there was rumored they had started selling caskets at Costco.
Yeah, they do.
Is it? They did.
They've been selling them for years.
Okay. They haven't sold them. They haven't sold them for years. So
not in store, but yeah.
Them in bulk? Do you have to buy them in bulk?
No. They buy them in bulk.
Because I think if you go in, it's like yeah, I'm gonna get a jar of almond butter, some dill pickles, and grandma, she ain't feeling too good.
There's 6 of us in the family. We'll get the 5-pack, and then the last person can figure their stuff out.
Yeah, but the bad one is when they have the samples out. But anyway.
Oh, here's a good question from Duncan.
Oh, hey,
if
Duncan.
You're at 13. You can't take an offensive lineman. What are you picking? Like,
wow,
you can't take center, tackle, guard. Go.
I would want to take a defensive tackle. I don't think we need to take the wide receiver early. For me, my biggest concern is defensive tackle outside of the offensive line. I think we need to bulk up the trenches, especially the interior part of it. So if a lot of people are talking about Cansey at 13, and while he has great talent, I'm a little worried that he's a little bit undersized. I mean, the size does concern me a little bit as far as him playing up the middle, but it could work. Put it this way: if he was going to work in the NFL, it would be in this kind of a defense. That's the one thing I feel optimistic about. Mozzie Smith is the guy that a lot of us want. I would definitely want him, but I think you could get him in the second round. As far as the first round goes, I still don't think Jalen Carter drops. It's hard for me to envision Carter dropping all the way to 13. But obviously, I think that's one thing we're all in agreement on. If he drops, you have to take the chance since he is the most talented player in the draft.
Yeah, I think if we can't take an offensive lineman at 13, I'm taking Kalijah Cansey. He reminds me of Aaron Donald. That's the move. I don't care about anything else.
I know you love you some Cansey.
Mozzie Smith doesn't fit our scheme. While he's an insanely good athlete, he doesn't fit what this team needs or what this team asks of our defensive tackles. Mozzie Smith is a nose tackle. Like that's the real, like that's what he is. A la like along the lines of like a Vita Vea. Vita Vea is a massive human being, but that's really what he is a nose tackle. And we don't do nose tackles in this team. We're never going to ask our guy to just eat up space. We're always going to send guys to the backfield and to create space and to create pressure. And a guy like Kalijah Cansey, you have to expect that he's going to put on a little bit of weight still. He's playing at 280. If you guess, he's playing at, I think, at 283. If you assume that he puts on 10 to 15 pounds once he hits an NFL room, and in a year or two he's playing at 300, I don't see how he doesn't, especially lined up next to Quinnen, who we're going to extend long term. I just don't see how you don't have like a Batman and Superman complex up the middle there, because like, I know that this is like a really weird kind of like, but like, and this is such a like, oh, this is the comp that Quinnen Williams got. And it's just like, well, yeah, it just took him 4 years to get there because he had no help. But like, this guy kind of ends up looking exactly like, in my opinion, like an Aaron Donald. Maybe not that good, but like that play, because Aaron Donald had all the same things: shorter arms, undersized, underweight, and he's an absolute game wrecker. He came to the next level, added 10 to 15 pounds, and boom, that's what they did. And that's what he did. He's an absolute monster. And I don't see why Kalijah can't do the same thing when he has all the
Aaron Donald was a late bloomer. By that, I mean like very, very late high school. But once he actually started playing and really committing himself, he couldn't be stopped. And then everybody knew who he was. But he wasn't the guy that people knew from the beginning was going to be a can't miss prospect. He made himself into that. And if Cansey can, it's funny when we do these mock drafts. I mean, I've seen Cansey go anywhere from the first round to the fourth round. Cansey's just all over the place, but he's steadily been rising through the ranks.
He doesn't make it past 20.
Yeah, he's gonna get. He's in real life. In real life, he's gonna go early because someone's gonna be totally in love with him, and they're gonna see what he is. You can't. There might be a lot of people blind to it, but how many GMs are gonna be blind to it? Someone's gonna see what we're seeing. He's special. Adam, are you on your way to Burger King or something? You making a fast food run?
I have been out doing deliveries all day. I was telling Tigo, but no. The lunch today was Tigo might or might not appreciate this being in Florida, but I got a good old sub from Publix.
Love it.
Nice.
Yep. Whole roast beef sandwich. Oh yeah. The dirty sweet potato chips, sweet tea, the way it was meant to be. So yeah, that took care of my hunger situation. But yeah, I'll be doing a Target delivery in a little bit. I don't have to do it right away, but I'm just sitting in the parking lot right now. So.
Oh, you do that for extra bucks?
That's what I do for the extra money, so I can support my YouTube channel habit.
Call it what it is. It's an addiction.
Is JD like more likely to move up or move back in the draft? So I mean, first round, there's no way we're moving up. Down. We're not moving down with the 13. We're not going to trade because there's no way I could see that. That's to me the most unlikely thing in the world. But what do you think? Forget about it's obvious that we're more likely if we're going to trade 13, it's more likely we're going back to 20, 22, whatever it is. What do you think of like 42, 43? Do you see, assuming we have them both, or even if we had one, do you see Joe Douglas likely to do what he's been doing like last year, where we might move into the back of the first rounds to grab another special player? Or do you think he would take 42 and move back to like 50, 52 and maybe try to get a third rounder or something?
It all depends if there's that one player that they feel they cannot go past. Like if they want JMS, we know they've been talking to him, looking at him. They are doing thorough research on this guy. If they come to the conclusion that is far and away the best center in the draft, that's the center that they have to have, I got confidence that Joe Douglas will find a way to work the board to make it happen, because he knows, the scouting staff knows, this front office knows, and this coaching staff knows they're not that many pieces away from being a real contender. So the picks that they do make, they got to make sure they know what they're going to do with them. But this is a situation where I could see the Jets trading down from 13. I definitely expect one of the second round picks to go in the Rodgers trade, but I could see them going up or down with that second round pick to late in the first or late in the second and early in the third. I could absolutely see any of those scenarios happening. There isn't one. It's hard for me to imagine that there's one player that they're completely sold on at 13, like they were with Sauce, or even with Garrett, because those players, to me, Sauce especially, was far and away the best player in the draft last year, had the highest floor. Garrett Wilson, I for one wanted over Drake London. I was always a Wilson guy over a London guy. I got some things wrong in the draft, no doubt about it. I wasn't big on trading for a running back, and I'm the first person to admit it. But this year, I think they got to have a lot more flexibility. I hope they have a lot of contingency plans ready to go, because who knows? Like to me, it really comes down to these quarterbacks. How many are going to go in the first 12? It could be 2, 3, 4. That is going to make so much of a difference on what is available to the Jets. So I'm just hoping in the first hour of the draft, I hear quarterback, 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 quarterback. That will make life a whole lot more exciting for the Jets go in the first round this year's draft.
It's a matter of strength of this class. This class is super weak. There's not a lot of good players that are going to be worth coming up for. In my opinion, there's really only 3 or 4 guys in this draft that are truly, truly worth coming up for. And one of those guys is a quarterback. And so, like, since we don't need the quarterback, we're not going to trade up for Jalen Carter. And, like, we're not going to trade up for Kalijah Cansey, who, in my opinion, are the only, like, 3 guys. Like, and it depends on how infatuated you are with Broderick Jones, right? Because Broderick Jones has best tackle in the league potential. Like, he has his ability at the position is, in my opinion, like, is not matched by anybody else in this class. The problem is the number of reps, because he only has 1 year of playing tackle, because he only played last year at Georgia, you know? And so, like, you're not trading up for any of those guys, but, like, in the second round, while, yes, I am in love with John Michael Schmitz, and I would love John Michael Schmitz, I was talking about it in a different, like, video that I was doing, where it's just like, there's a lot of centers and tackles and the guys in this class that I'd be okay with. Like, yeah, of all the tackles, I want Broderick Jones. If all of the guys are available at 13, you should take Broderick Jones. Now, that being said, like, if we didn't go tackle at 13 and we took and we traded out, like, I feel comfortable with a lot of these other tackles. I feel really comfortable with a lot of these centers. Like, moving back definitely in this draft is the way to do it, because there are linebackers, there are defensive tackles, there are offensive tackles, offensive linemen that you're going to be able to get later in the draft that are going to be much better for where this team is at. He's, like, 100% going to be the, like, if someone wants to come up, they should call the Jets, because I think we're not filling the top half of our roster. The only part of this team that truly, truly needs a day one starter is at defensive tackle. That's it. It's the only position that we need a day one starter. Every other position on this football team, whether you like it or not, has a guy that can come in and play really, really well outside of defensive tackle. So
how about Wes Schweitzer at center? Are you feeling confident about that one?
Well, I would put Cologne at center.
Oh, okay.
Cologne at center, not Schweitzer. And
interesting idea.
Again, it's not the best scenario, but him
It
next
could
to
work.
Lakin and Elijah Vera Tucker, I feel a lot more comfortable. Cologne has some nasty in him. You know what I mean? Like, some real nasty in him. But again, it comes back to the whole idea of, like, you know what? I feel comfortable with, like, 5 or 6 centers in this class. Any one of those guys can come in and play. And I feel a lot more comfortable, because I tend to believe that Lakin Tomlinson is going to look like the Lakin Tomlinson of old, the one that earned that contract, not what happened last year. Last year was a rough year for him, not just in his play, but in his personal life. I think his dad died. It's a lot of things that went on, moving and all of those things. But when you do all of that, Elijah Vera Tucker is going to be back. Like, I'd feel cool with Cologne or Whippler or Tittman or literally anybody. Avia, he's not a good guy, so I wouldn't love him on the team, but I like him as a prospect. And Olusegun Oluwatimi out of Michigan, even though he's a dick. Like, there are guys in this draft that are, like, even Stromberg late. There's a lot of people that feel comfortable with him. So, like I said, the only position that we truly need, like, desperately need a day one starter, because I cannot week one see Quinnen Williams and Solomon Thomas. I'm not going to accept that. Everything else we feel really comfortable with. So I can say, like, you know what? We can move around in this draft a ton and start getting projects and filling out the back half of our roster, because that's what needs filling, is the back half, not the front half outside of defensive tackle.
And I'm still running through the idea in my mind after seeing some of the mock drafts this past week. What if the Jets actually did trade down to somewhere in the 20s and they actually went out and drafted Osiris Torrance at guard and moved AVT to right tackle? I'm not saying I love the idea, but I'm just kind of like wondering about it in my mind. I love his confidence. I love his nasty streak. There is no other interior offensive line prospect in the draft, I think, with the upside that he has.
It's not about AVT playing at tackle and everything about Osiris Torrance. He is not a guard in our scheme. He doesn't work. He won't work. That's like putting a square in a round hole. Like it just doesn't fit. He's not a fit for our scheme and what we do. And so if that was the pick, it's setting him up for failure. Like he's just not built to run a wide zone scheme.
We better let Jordan Reed know that at ESPN as soon as we can.
Again, but we know intimately what our scheme is. We know intimately what these guys don't. These guys are just looking at it and saying, well, Elijah Vera Tucker can play tackle. They're not listening to the Joe Douglas or Robert Saleh both saying that Elijah Vera Tucker is going to go back to guard. So they're just doing the thing that in their mind would make sense by just looking at the ESPN depth chart. Oh, there's Elijah Vera Tucker. Oh, there's Dwayne Brown. Boom, there's 2 tackles. Oh, Mekhi Becton's been hurt 2 years, but they're not hearing. Like, you can make those assumptions just by looking at a depth chart and those things. And then Osiris Torrance, well, he's the best guard in the class. Boom, the Jets can take a guard because Elijah Vera Tucker can play tackle, but it just doesn't fit with our system because, again, like he needs to go to a power, like a power blocking scheme, not a wide zone scheme.
Not a zone.
Yeah, because we're going to ask our guards to pull and go, and isn't he like close to 400 pounds? Like he's a massive human being. Like, and this is like a healthy. Like he's huge. I'm gonna pull him up.
This is big news.
Hey, the one argument that I'm seeing in favor of moving AVT there is, and I agree, he probably has his higher upside at guard. The one argument I seem to hear from the other side is, well, if all things are similar, then you want to put the player at the higher value position. So
it's just that you're talking elite. You're talking potentially best in the NFL, elite all-pro, like maybe the best guard in football versus a good tackle. I'm not going to say average because it looked to me like he was going to be even potential all-pro at tackle. But I think there is a level difference. I think like guard, I think he might literally become the best guard in the NFL.
Tom C, why would the Jets need to meet with Steve Avila? Don't they just need to call you and Green Bean? They'll get all the information they need from you two.
And he's 350, not 400.
350. That's let's not go Mekhi Becton syndrome on him just yet.
I wasn't ready to say any of those things. I never said Mekhi Becton was showing up at and I never said that it was a bad weight either.
No, I don't mean you at all.
He plays good for his weight. You know, he plays really well for his weight. He's just not a scheme fit.
I love it when you get the guys driving around with the boom boxes and you can't hear anything but bass coming through the speakers. Yeah. Just I got that going on right now. That's part of the joys of living in Newport News, Virginia.
I will say that there's always going to be extra value to AVT because we know that he can move out the tackle and not just be functional, but actually be a good tackle. Like still your offense could be very effective with him at tackle and, and you could still do the things you want to do. It's always going to make him so valuable. But like, I don't see them, even if they didn't take a tackle. I mean, I don't think that that's a question about taking a tackle. I think that they might surprise us and take a guy like Cody Mock in the 4th round. They might go more of a developmental way, and they might say, for this year, we're okay. We believe Becton looks great. We believe Max Mitchell is on the road to recovery, and he's looking great, and he's going to be available. And we got Dwayne Brown, and 2 of those 3 guys are going to be fine, and we're going to have one of them for depth, and we'll have whoever we draft, like a Cody Mock, or Bergeron, will have one of those guys that could be like a Mitchell who might, if they have to come in as a rookie, they might do okay. Like I could see us taking that route. It's not impossible that we're going to take that route. And as Green Bean has said a million times, you don't always have to take a tackle in the 1st round to get a future good starting tackle. It's like, it's not a necessity. And I think Max Mitchell, and knock on wood, I hope he really comes back healthy and, I hope it's not anything too serious and this doesn't affect his life. Max Mitchell, to me, because people want to say, "Oh, he was good, but he wasn't great or anything." Look, stop that.
Yeah, he was playing underweight.
He was a rookie. He was
20
rookie.
pounds light.
Right. He's a rookie though. Like, so you have to remember, not most players when they're playing their first 6 professional NFL games, the rest of their career goes a lot better. Like, he's going to get better. And the plan for him was to get him stronger. The plan for him was to get heavier with more muscle and to become stronger. They picked him, and Tigo will tell you this a million times. They picked him because of fundamentals, because he is what's the word I'm looking for?
He's fundamentally sound.
Right. He's fundamentally
not perfect,
sound.
but he's
Right.
fundamentally sound.
Right. He's technically very good. Now, when he adds strength and power, like in an NFL locker room and weight room with real trainers and all of that, he might be a much better than average tackle eventually. So you don't have to take a tackle in the first round to get a good tackle. And I don't know that we're looking for a starting tackle. Now, if a guy like Broderick drops, if they love Pete, if they love a guy, fine. I'm not saying they won't take a tackle in the first round. I'm just saying it might not be necessary. He might look at a guy like Anton Harrison or Darnell Wright or Cody Mock and say, I'm perfectly happy getting one of those guys in the later round.
Right, but
Warren, for me, is the guy that interests me.
Right, who interests you? I'm sorry.
Warren, the tackle out of Pitt.
McClendon?
He's an older prospect.
Okay.
He for me is the guy that I know that this is a little bit like a lot of love for a guy like this. Carter Warren. He's the guy that, like, if you're going to say we don't need the tackle in the first round, all of the reports that I'm seeing says that Max is going to be ready for OTAs. Everything, like, he's back. And so that's good because I follow a lot of I have a Max Mitchell notification. So if anything, Max, I know about it. But like all of those things going, and let's say that we're really high on it, and you want to take a guy that maybe isn't the guy right now, but has that kind of upside. Carter Warren for me was, if you look at the 4 games that he played at the beginning of the year before I think he tore his meniscus. If you look at those games that it's just, I think he would have been in the conversation for a first round tackle, but he only played 4 games last year. And so it's just like he got hurt. Like there's a lot of guys. Like I literally did a video on it. There's like a bunch of guys that we can take from the 2nd to the 5th round that we can say, you know what? Like everyone's thinking that we need to replace one of the first, like we need a left or a right tackle. Like what if we just need tackle 4? Like
I just hope whoever we do draft on the offensive line can handle a tough coach, because I'm excited to have Keith Carter coaching this offensive line. But you got to have. I'm not as much worried about their physical traits, their arm length, and this and that. I'm more worried about where they are mentally and what kind of coaching can they handle. Because if they want like a real players-friendly coach, they're not going to get that in Coach Carter.
No.
So that's something to keep in mind. I want, when we draft an offensive lineman, let's look at what college they went to and what the traits of those coaches are like. Because if they're going from a super player-friendly coach to Keith Carter, it's going to be a heck of a culture shock.
Oh, is Keith Carter a ball buster?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the reasons why he was brought in, and like not just given the offensive line, but given the run game coordinator position, is because he is literally the opposite of what Nathaniel Hackett is. Nathaniel Hackett follows that same kind of mold of Robert Saleh, of being a player's coach. And like Saleh will ball bust when he needs to. We just don't see it. He doesn't air his dirty laundry, taking words out from his mouth. Nathaniel Hackett, from everything that I have seen, doesn't ball bust at all. It's all glass half full. And on offense, there's a reason that works, right? It's a confidence thing. Like I get that, but you also need a ball busting guy, a guy that can just scream in your face. Because like sometimes you need that. Like
it's about accountability.
Yeah.
You need somebody who's going to enforce accountability.
And I like that. And I like that for Becton in particular to help keep enforcing that work ethic. That's one of the things I really like. But all you have to do is look at the quotes Taylor Lewan had on his podcast about Coach Carter right around the time he was actually on the air when the Titans actually let him go, when they let Carter go, which was quite interesting. And he basically just started laughing. And the bulk of what he said was, we didn't always get along, and he absolutely did bust my balls, but he did get better as it went on, and I absolutely and I do respect him as a coach.
You could tell that Lewan is a super, like, he needs to be friend coached, not coach coached.
Right. Lewan is going to say it how it is. There's no doubt about it. So, yeah, we better, whoever we get for the offensive line has to be mentally tough. No way around it.
What's up, Frank Soma, Staten Island? It's a Staten Island boy, Highland Boulevard.
The Arthur Kill and the landfills. Yep, I remember my days over there too. Yep. Best player available at 13. Oh, well, help is deep. I mean, you could do that. I mean, yeah, this isn't really a situation where we say we have to draft. I hate the situations where we're saying we got to draft this position here with this spot. Sometimes you just have to take it how the board comes to you.
Yeah, if a guy like Jalen Carter was to drop, or if Cansey, if it's just, if JD sees it the way we see it, if you see him as the best player, then you just take him. I don't care, because nobody complains later on if they end up being a superstar. No one goes back and says, you took that guy too early. That doesn't happen when you're right. So if you believe you're right, and he's going to, like, if he's going to be that, like, next to Q, and it's going to be disgusting, and it's going to be amazing, and he's going to be helping us stop the run and driving quarterbacks crazy, and it's going to make our defense even that much more fierce, no one's going to complain and say, well, we didn't have to take him at 13, though. It's like, it won't be an issue. As long as the player turns out great, it's not an issue.
It's just go get the best player available. That's what it is. Who is the best player on the board? Go get him, regardless of position. Last year, we didn't need a cornerback. It wasn't a need. Find me a single Jets fan who isn't in love with Sauce. There was a lot of us who maybe didn't love the pick when it happened, right? I had Sauce as my number one player on the board last year. And the moment that pick came in, I was like, oh, so we're just not taking the edge then. We're going to get a round 2 edge. Like, that's because you can't not get the wide receiver at 10.
Right.
And then Drake London got taken at 9. And I was like, well, this is the worst case scenario for me. And I was wrong. And it wasn't like, because I wanted to be the team to take the first wide receiver off the board. I wanted the pick of what we wanted at wide receiver, not to take what was left. And thankfully, Atlanta isn't managed well. And neither is Houston, Detroit, or Jacksonville. Because they messed up. They all passed up on the defensive rookie of the year. And Atlanta passed up on the offensive rookie of the year. And, like, there you go. And it's fantastic. And then, like, 16 teams after that passed up on, statistically, one of the better edges in the class in Jermaine Johnson. I had Jermaine Johnson as edge 2 on my board, and to get him at 25, 26, or whatever it is that we got him, again, just go get the best player available. It doesn't matter.
But defensively, everybody passed on Michael Clemens. What were they all thinking?
Well, he brought a gun to school, and so...
Yeah. He only brought it. He didn't shoot it.
He went to JUCO, so he had that. Again, even that might even be why JJ slept a little bit, because they got JUCO guys. Clemens was a little older. All these little things, but at the end of the day, in 4th round, brilliant pick, because you just look at the talent and you say, if it doesn't work out, it's a 4th round pick. No one's going to remember or care that much. Well, Jet fans are a little ridiculous. They expect every pick to work out, but it's not as big a deal. So you could definitely take chances and do things that you do in the 4th round that you don't do in the 1st and 2nd round, right? So
there's a lot of that stuff. It's one of those things where, like, we're finally at a position, like I said, where what happens if we go and sign Ben Jones? Let's say we create a bunch of cap space. We go and we sign Ben Jones. We go in, we sign 2 defensive tackles. Like, we bring in Akeem Hicks and
Poona Ford, Shelby Henry.
Those
are the 2 guys I haven't. Okay. Yeah, Matt.
Right? And those guys are going to cost you, or those guys might cost a lot of money, right? You go Akeem Hicks, probably going to cost you like $5 million. And then you go and get Ndamukong Suh, who just came off of the Eagles, $2 million, right? Those two guys, that's depth. Now we have 5 defensive tackles. Now, like, and you got Ben Jones. Literally, just go get the best player available. Like, it doesn't matter what the position is, like, because you'll find a place to keep them. Whatever the best player is, you just can have them compete and run out the rest of the roster. Like, if the best player on the board is a corner, cool. Like, take a corner, because is he better than Bryce Hall? Is he better than Brandon Eccles? Like, just load up, because you're one injury away from a position of need or a position of strength becoming a position of need. We saw that last year. We lost 4 offensive tackles. And one of those guys played purely because he's just an insanely strong and powerful human being. And he was cool with it in Dwayne Brown. Dwayne Brown should not have played. He had no arms. He was playing without arms last year.
He couldn't raise his left arm over his head.
Yep.
I have the injury that he had. I had it 4 years ago is when I got that injury. The same one. I still have just playing with my son. It's 4 years later. I never had the surgery. I still have problems with my left shoulder. Like, I have all the movement back, but like the strength's not all there yet. And it's not a matter of trying. It's hard when you have like that torn rotator cuff and you don't get it surgically repaired. It's hard to get it back. And it's one of those things where even with that, he played relatively well. And then we lost Mekhi Becton, George Fant, Max Mitchell, Elijah Vera Tucker. Like, you're one position away, you're one injury away from a position of strength becoming a position of need. And we're in a position where we don't have any relative positions of weakness. If we do those things, right? We go sign 2 defensive tackles, we go and bring in a center. What's the biggest need?
It's just take the best player, just add another stud.
Yep.
Future, thinking about the future, thinking about not having to worry about guys leave, not have to worry about salary cap, just getting quality players that will contribute and be on the cheap.
Yep.
And that's what you want. That's the perfect way to be in a draft. I get to take the best possible player to make the team better, just get another star that I don't have to worry about paying for 4 years. And I get to just, wherever they're going to help, they're going to help. And that, to me, a luxury pick like that, and I'm not saying I would do it at 13, but that would be how I would defend. Like, if we sign those 2 defensive tackles, right? And if we got Odell Beckham at wide receiver, like if we did all these little things, that would be my defense for trading back and taking a Brian Branch. That's how I would defend it. I'd say, because we don't have any super needs, we were able to get more draft capital, and we took the best player there that's going to make a huge impact for our team.
Brian Branch, this safety class sucks in the sense of like what the Jets need, because all of these safeties are box safeties. All of them. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so very few true free safeties in this class. And like, Brian Branch is one of them. Brian Branch is going to end up being Jamal Adams, if he can stay healthy, Jamal Adams, but who can cover.
Right.
Because that's what he is. You shouldn't want him in coverage. That's not why you drafted Brian Branch. You want Brian Branch to play near the box. You really want to just have him on the field. Tell him to go do whatever he wants to do. Right? Like, that's the kind of, and as a strong safety, you can do that. And if you play single high and you have this flexible player and Brian Branch, just be like, dude, you're going to know where the ball is anyway. You're that smart. Just go be around the football. But like, if you put him as a free safety, as like a single high, you're taking away from his skill set. You're taking away from what he can do at an exceptional level. And then the same thing goes with like Antonio Johnson. Yeah, like, he can cover, but he should be in the box. Like, that's what he's like. He's such a good tackler and coming downhill, and he would fit really well in a 2-high scheme. Like, there's so many of these guys that can cover that just like probably shouldn't. And it's one of those things that I think we're going to end up like when we look at like Chuck Clark and Jordan Whitehead. Like, we know what Chuck Clark is, right? He's the Jordan Whitehead replacement. But I think the thing that people aren't realizing is that Jordan Whitehead is the LaMarcus Joyner replacement. Like, he was actually like halfway decent in coverage last year. He wasn't great. He dropped a couple of picks that were like right at his numbers, right? But he wasn't horrible. He was probably better, in my opinion, than like, it's just one of those things where it's just like,
See what I love about Brian Branch is you want to finally be a team that's one of the top in the league in positive turnover ratio. A guy like Brian Branch will help make that happen. He's a ball hawk, man. He gets the ball. Whether it's as a box safety because he's hitting and he's stripping, or whether he's intercepting, or recovering a fumble that's loose because he's the first guy to react. He is a ball hawk. He's going to get us the ball. So that's what excites me a lot about him is that that turnover thing that he's we need guys who can get us the freaking football. Every once in a while it really helps your defense. It really helps turn the tide of a game when you can sometimes have that happen for you.
Is he a bullhawk? Is he getting a bunch of interceptions? I don't remember that being a stat for his, like being an interception guy.
I think he causes fumbles more, but when I watch his highlights, he seems like he just hawks the ball more. I mean, when I watched him play in like that last bowl game or last playoff game, I turned it on because Tom told me about him, and I watched him. And the second play that I watched that the defense was on the field, he created a turnover. I forgot how he did it, whether it was a pick or where he hit the guy behind the line of scrimmage and caused a fumble. But he literally created a turnover. The second play I watched his Alabama play on defense, and I said, "Holy shit, that never happens." Whenever I go to watch a guy, the guy almost for me when I watch a live game and I'm watching for a guy, they're invisible. It happens to me every time. They do nothing, and that I turn on the TV. And the second play on defense, boom, he causes a turnover. And I said, okay, this is the guy.
One play is all it takes to convince you. Okay.
I was like,
again,
and then it was the rest of the game, though. It was like the next drive, he made a huge hit. And they kept talking about it. And the announcers, they go, man, this guy just takes over.
It's one of those things, like I said, like if you look at the top safeties in the class, like they're all guys, they're all box safeties. Like,
I mean, Chris Smith. I mean, still like Christopher Smith. I mean, J.L. Skinner can play in coverage, even though he suffered an injury kind of recently. Brandon Joseph could do it. I mean, for me, Smith and Skinner to me are maybe the two.
Skinner's also a box guy.
Who is
J.L. Skinner? He played over half of it,
more of a hybrid guy. But Smith is
more than half of his snaps in the box and like on the line and at slot. Like, it's one of those things where like. There aren't very many guys like Christopher Smith. I'll give you, he played deep, like a lot. Like that's what he did. Jordan Battle, who was the guy who went to war with Brian Branch. He played deep a lot because Brian Branch played like there's a ton of these guys. But most of these guys, like the guys that are truly going to come in and maybe compete for that free safety job immediately, they're all box guys. It's just, people keep talking about drafting a safety. This is not the draft. I don't think we're taking a safety. I'm going to say it like right now because of the top 6-ish guys, all of them are box guys. Branch, Johnson, Brown, Jammy, J.L. Skinner.
Jammy too. He's you can use him pretty much in either spot, but to me, he doesn't have one spot where he's particularly excellent versus the other. To me, you can really put him in either spot. But guys, I do have to run. Got a little bit of work to do, but thanks very, very much for having me on. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Friday, and I'll see you guys soon. Okay.
Thanks for joining, Adam.
All right. Have a good one.
Yep. So Nathan says Johnson's definitely a free safety. So that's what you were saying, right? He's one of the two.
No. He's a strong safety. He's a box guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you look at his snap counts. And what he plays, he primarily plays slot corner for like Texas A&M. Like they really had him in the slot a lot over his time there. And they played him deep on a couple of snaps, but a majority of his time was spent in and around the box, either as a slot corner, as like a blitzing linebacker, as a box safety. Like he played well over half of his snaps really, really close to the line of scrimmage versus playing as that single high guy.
Dom really likes Jamie Johnson.
Jamie Robinson.
Jamie Robertson. Like, what do you think of him? Because he's a free safety, right?
Yes, but here's the thing: is I love Jamie, and I would love Jamie. We won't be in a position to take him. I think he's a second round guy. And that's the problem, right? Like Jimmy's a second round
Right.
guy. I kind of have second round like written in stone as a center. Like I would be surprised if it's not a center. Like truly be surprised if it's not a center. And Jimmy's for sure I love me Jamie Robinson, but that's the whole thing. Like
PFN has skewed my ability to know anything because as far as availability and when, because their rankings are so bad. I mean, they have like Jamie Robinson is a guy you could get with pick 115. I mean, they're so bad that
that's why I don't use them.
It messes my head up, you know?
And the trades that they offer are just atrocious. Like they never make any sense.
Right.
So I don't use PFN. Like you have to, the best, in my opinion, like mock draft simulator out there is the PFF mock draft. And it's not because of their big board. They have some problems with their big board as well. They have John Michael Schmitz is the third best center in the class and a guy that you can get in the 60s. And like, they're not perfect. Like, and I'm never going to say that they're perfect, but their mock draft simulator is more inherently dictated by like what they have teams picking when you're running their mock draft simulator based on what the fan bases are doing and like what they're like not what their big board is, but what the big board is for other people. And they have those sliders. And that's the thing that I like about it, because like when you click on a player and you see a great example right now is I have Jamie Robinson opened up, and in December, he was a guy that you could have gotten in the 200s easily, that you was getting taken in the 200s. And then January comes along, and now the average pick rate for him has skyrocketed into the 50s. And now he's fallen and he's in the 60s to the 70s range. And most people that are using the mock draft simulator have the Eagles taking him. The Eagles pick him 15% of the time. The Green Bay Packers have. And so like you can use a lot of this information and say, okay, it's not just their big board that's influencing, because that's what PFN does. PFN just goes, here's the big board, here's our needs, and like whichever the best player is at that need, and then their whole rankings are wrong. And that's why I don't use the PFN. But I like to hop from a couple of different places. The Draft Network has a good one. PFF has a good one. There's a couple of places that have really good mock draft simulators, and by going to a bunch of different places and using those, you can really start to see, like I have my own personal big board, right? I'm about 200 players deep on my big board. And so I've got a relatively good idea of who I like and who I don't like, because I have players that like I just don't even have on my big board because I don't even consider them draftable players that people are really high on. A great example of it, like Hendon Hooker's not on my big board at all. Because I don't consider him a draftable player. Neither is Stetson Bennett. I don't have them on my board at all because I just don't consider them draftable players. Like if you can get them in an undrafted free agent capacity, cool. Like I'm cool with that, but I'm not using a pick on them. Same thing with like the kickers and the punters this year. There's not a single one that I have on my big board at all, because I just don't feel like any of them are worth drafting right now. And you just do your thing. And then you can compare your big board to PFF and the Draft Network, and you start comparing and contrasting to see, like, are you in consensus with everybody? Is everybody, are you the odd man out? Are you like, what's going on here?
I wonder if he's ever going to pick a kicker or a punter in a draft, JD. I wonder if that's ever going to be something he would even do. I mean, I feel like we're set now. I feel like they addressed the Braden Mann issue. We brought in somebody we know that did a good job for us that we should have never let go to begin with. And I feel like they're fine with Greg the Leg, unless he comes in and has a horrible camp and somebody they bring in beats him. I mean, you know, like, but I think it's his job to win or lose without question, right, Zerline? So, I mean, he did what we needed him to do. His problem was before that with Dallas was a little inaccuracy with the shorter stuff, but he was accurate enough for us with the shorter range stuff to justify having him because of his ability to give us a hope when it's over 50 yards. I mean, when you could kick a 55-yard field goal, when you have that hope because you have a guy that has that kind of leg, you could deal with a few percentage points lower in accuracy in the 40-yard range. Don't you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's the trade-off. If you can't kick a field goal over 50 yards and your percentage is not great in the 40 range, then you're going to be.
You want to be well over 90, under 40. That's the thing. You want
Right.
to be almost automatic
Right.
well, here's the thing. You want to be automatic anything under 30, and anything under 40, you want to be relatively automatic, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the real thing. The problem is that we were very rarely asking him to kick anything under 30, like ever last year.
Right.
And a lot of people, this is the problem with looking at the box score, right? It's the same people that argue Zach was, what was he? Was 4-3, 4-1, whatever it was before the, like, it's like, okay, that's fine. But like, stop being a box score guy. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the right. The tape matters. And when we're asking a guy to kick 50-yard field goals consistently because we can't move the ball past the midfield, because we can't get the ball into the red zone, we're running up to the 40-yard line and then stopping. Like, what are you expecting from the guy? You know, I think he was fantastic. I don't think we need to address the kicker. I think we've got kicker good for at least another couple of years. Bringing in Morstead to compete with Mann is another great option. And all the people that are like upset with Mann still being on the roster, there's no incentive to cut him now. Whether we like it or not, Mann is another one of those guys that is incredibly athletic in the sense of like, he's got a cannon of a leg. The problem is that he doesn't know how to control it yet.
Mhm.
And like, you never want to be the guy who gives up on a guy. Like even punter, special teams matters. Like, I think Kansas City won the Super Bowl because their special teams unit was better. That was the defining factor to me. Because offense versus offense, they were on par. Obviously, not on par, right? Like, the Eagles' offense versus Kansas City's offense, defense, and Kansas City's offense versus the Phillies' offense brought the game to relatively level when you look at those. But the special teams is what won it, and special teams matters so much. And so, like, there's no point in cutting him now because, like, why would you? Like, you know, here's the thing. I don't want him as the punter. Don't take what I'm saying as, like, oh, keep Braden Mann. No. If Morstead is being like even 0.5% more consistent, you keep him. But like, what would suck is like you trade him, like you cut him, and then he goes to Buffalo, and now he's just the most consistent leg in the game, and you're just like, damn, we gave up on the kid 1 year too early. But I don't expect to be punting a lot next year anyway. What are you torturing yourself with? Come on, you're almost at 25.
So I'm going to show. So I'm not going to do anything crazy at 2,500. I might do some hot sauce or something, but nothing crazy. But I will tell you this. If I get to 5,000 subs, and, you know, I thought I had a very good chance when the year started, but unfortunately it got really slow. So now I'm not so sure. But if I was to get to 5,000 subs by the end of 2023, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the chip challenge. Okay. So I will eat this chip if I get to 5,000 subs in 2023. So, I mean, everybody here is subs, so it's not like this is going to matter to any of them. But this is my thing. This is the thing that I'm willing to do. I don't want to do it. I dread it. So it has to be a big goal. It has to be something really special to make me do something like that. Because even though I did the hot sauce thing with my brothers, I am not strong at this. I am not good for this. This is something that I might deeply, deeply regret if I eat this chip. I might be very unhappy that I did it. But I know it's safe because I've watched enough videos of people doing it. Like, I've watched people cry. I've watched people, you know, really wish they didn't do it and really suffer, but they all live. And it's like they don't go to the hospital or anything. They all survive it. And that's what I'm going to do. And this one actually turns your tongue blue, it says. I know it has Reaper pepper extract powder all over it or whatever, which is my most dreaded pepper. The Reaper is just so painful. So that's the answer. But for 2,500, I don't know. Maybe I'll give away a card or give away a Star Wars toy or do something. But I am getting close. I'm pretty excited about it. I really just want to break 3,000 already, you know, before the season starts, to be honest. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. But I'm not going to lie. It's been slow. Like, you know, it's been slow. It's taken a long time. I broke 2,000 by Thanksgiving in 2022. So it's taken a long time to get to 460. But I will keep plugging away. Wild Wave says they all live. Famous last words. It's funny. Yeah, so one thing that I do want to note, Tigo, is that when I do look at PFN and all these players, and we look at all these ridiculous rankings, we look at all these guys that really won't be there in the third, fourth rounds, what it means is that some of the guys that they do have up there will be there in the third and fourth round, right? And I mentioned this in our
for every player that goes up, someone must go down.
Yeah, I mentioned this in our private chat. I was like, we say, oh, this guy will probably be first round. This guy will be a first round. Well, 40 guys can't go in the top 30 picks. 40 guys can't go in the top 30 picks. It's that simple. So somebody's going to slip out. Now, what I'm worried about is that the guys that are all going to be slipping out are the tight ends, the edges. It's going to be the guys we don't need. That's my big fear.
Positions of strength slip.
Yeah.
Because you take the positions that are weak first.
Yeah.
And the positions that are strengths for our team. And that's the problem. Yeah. I would not be surprised if guys and again, this isn't my, I would not be surprised to see the edges fall hard outside of Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson, because, or the cornerbacks fall, because you know what this class isn't great at? Interior defensive linemen. And maybe you take those guys first. You know where this class isn't super great at? Wide receiver. And so maybe you take those guys first. And you have those kinds of conversations where it's just maybe we take the guys that this class isn't that deep, in the sense of okay, we need a starter. A position that everybody needs, but kind of falls off after the top-ish guys, the top 6 or 7-ish guys, is tackle. If you need a starting tackle, there are 6 guys that can go in the first round. Truthfully. Mm-hmm. There are, and so you have those conversations where you're just what if 6 tackles go in the first round? What if 5 some team is going to fall in love with Hendon Hooker, right? That's my biggest hot take, is some team's going to make the mistake and draft Hendon Hooker in the first round.
There's always a team. There's always is.
Right? Minnesota is going to do it.
Yeah.
They're just, because we have Kirk. Why not? We'll just sit Hendon Hooker. It's one of those things where I think it's a mistake, but you got you got 10 guys right there. You got 4 quarterbacks we know are going to go in the first. We've got 6 tackles that could go in the first. We've got 5 edges that can go in the first. We've got 4 or 5 cornerbacks that can go in the first. We've got 3 or 4 wide receivers that can go in the first. There's all of this stuff. So whoever comes up,
4 quarterbacks
come down. You keep having that conversation, and you're right. And I would not be surprised if guys like Nolan Smith and Lucas Van Ness, guys who don't necessarily have a super defined position, they're just insanely good athletes, fall down boards, because they're maybe the gap between Lucas Van Ness and the USC kid, Tuli Tuipulotu, maybe the gap isn't that big, and you can get Tui in the second round, or Tuli in the second round.
But that brings up the question. I was actually thinking of that, because it's funny you said edge. Let's do first 2 different scenarios. Let's do a scenario where what's a little, I think, more expected answer from you is we end up giving away one of our seconds to Green Bay, right? 23. The Rodgers thing has happened. We are now down to just the first, second, fourth, fifth round pick. Is there an edge? Is there one that you would take in the second round if they slipped, if they were there in the second round, where you'd say, we cannot pass on this guy?
Have we taken our center in the first?
No.
Okay.
Because we don't go again until the 4th round.
Nope. Yeah.
You
have to take the center. Have we signed a center in this hypothetical world? Is Ben Jones?
Ben Jones on the roster.
Ben Jones on the roster? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Then there's a bunch of guys that I would take. The real problem is it's not I like this edge class, and guys that and this class is really volatile, because you see guys that could be top 10 picks, and then you see guys that could fall out of the first round. A guy that I don't think will be there in the second round, but in mock drafts I see him everywhere, is a guy like Miles Murphy and Nolan Smith. because they're just freak athletes. That's just what they are. Lucas Van Ness is another one of those guys. I think Lucas Van Ness is slated for a top 10 pick. I am in love with some Lucas Van Ness. I think he's an insanely good athlete. And you just, but like, those are guys that could slip. But like Will McDonald's, BJ Ojolari, Adebawore, Tui Pelotu, Carl Brooks. Like, those are all guys, even Isaiah McGuire, like, those are all guys that, like, might be there in the second that you might look at. But, like, the problem is it's a hat on a hat. We know that this class isn't good at defensive, is good at edge, but isn't good at defensive tackle. Brian Bressie might fall out of the first. That's an interesting pick. While I'm not necessarily the biggest, I don't necessarily see the super fit for Mozzie Smith on this team. Like, in the sense of like scheme fit, like I would take him over any of these edges right now. Again, another guy that I don't see the super best fit, but like, again, I would probably take would be like Siaki Ika. Keanu Benton is flying up boards. I would love me some Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin. Like, there are other guys that I look at. Moro Ojimo out of Texas is coming up boards. These are guys that I look at and I go, you know what? Maybe.
Yeah.
Ben Jones is on the roster. We have all this stuff and just like.
So that, I mean, that's what Ben Jones gives us. If Ben Jones gives us that flexibility of we don't have to take a center, and it doesn't mean we won't take one. It just means we can gamble, because in the fourth round, maybe Stromberg is there. You know, like maybe somebody does slip down, and then all of a sudden we can take one and have that future. But without Jones on the roster, I feel exactly what you're saying. We literally don't have a center. We have no choice. We have to secure one of those top four guys in the second round if we don't have a center. And the only exception to that is if we trade down the 13th pick into the 20s and get a third round pick, because then JD might say, okay, I feel pretty safe. We'll get one of the centers in the third round. Even that's a little scary, though. Even that's a little scary. You're still risking it. If you don't have Jones on the roster, and if all we have is what we have now, I agree. I don't know how you go in to a season with Aaron Rodgers and say, this is what we got at center. I think you need to have something better, and you can't sit there and roll the dice in the draft. And you know, I understand you don't need to use the 13th pick on a center, but when you get to that 42nd pick, if that's all you have, if you traded 43 away to Green Bay, you have to take center. You just have to. We must go into the season with a center we can rely on that could be there.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like, it's a hard. You'll find me hard pressed to look at it and say I'm going to pass up on a position. Like, in this class, I'm almost inclined to say, don't take corner, don't take edge. I don't care who's there. Like, I'm almost at that point, right? Like, would I love to replace Bryce Hall? Like, yeah. Would I love to replace Justin Hardy? Yeah. Like, do we need to, though? No.
No, I mean,
Absolutely.
we got Brandon. I mean, when you have the two,
Eccles.
when you have Eccles on the team and Bryce Hall, I mean, as your 3 and 4, I mean, how could you take a cornerback? As sucky as it is that this is such a good draft for cornerback, you're right. I mean, how do you do it when the need for defensive tackle, center, offensive tackle is just so strong? And if we don't get Quan back on the roster, we need a freaking linebacker that can play coverage linebacker, right? I mean, like,
I don't
we
think
have,
so.
huh?
I would be hard pressed to see if us take a linebacker before like the end of day 3.
No,
I
I know that
is much
there's
higher
more
on
parity
JVN than all of us.
Plus, there's more parity in the back with
Oh, yeah.
linebacker. There's a bunch of guys, Dorian Williams. There's some guys that might be there in the 4th round that'll be fine. But what I mean is we have to take one, though, or we have to sign someone if not Quan. Like we can't go in with just Q Williams and Mosley. And I mean, I love Sherwood, but isn't he more like in the middle?
Yeah, but Like, so was Quan before. Like, no, Quan fills the same role as like Quincy. Again, like, you also have to remember we don't play a ton of 3 linebacker sets. Like, at all. Like, at all. We play a ton of nickel. Like, you know what I consider a bigger position of need? Like, who's the backup nickel? Who's going to replace Michael Carter if he goes down? You know, that's a bigger need in my book, is like a guy who's going to be exclusively a backup slot. And Tony Adams fits that role really, really well right now. But like, what happens if Tony Adams is the starting free safety? Then who's going to play slot if he goes down? And Will Parks is the guy that we use as the big slot when we play 2 tight end sets. Like when we play up against 2 tight end sets, you'll see Michael Carter run off the field and Will Parks will come in because Will Parks is taller than Michael Carter. So we asked Will Parks to cover the tight ends in those plays. And like, that makes a ton of sense. But do you trust Will Parks to keep up with that 3rd wide receiver? I don't know. I'm not in that defensive room, and I'm not even going to sit here and lie and say that I'm 100% on Will Parks tape. I'm not. Like, I've watched way more Michael Carter, and I know his skill set, and I know what he can do at an exceptionally high level. But like, again, I just said it. You would find me hard pressed to say take a corner in this draft. Like, just there's no need. We'll figure it out. Even if that means bumping DJ Reed inside and playing Brandon Eccles on the outside, or hell, play Eccles in the slot. Like, there are things. I feel so much more comfortable with the rest of this team to do that. And so it's one of those things where it's just like, we got to go. Like, the things I want us to walk away with this class, like I want us to walk away with: offensive tackle, offensive center, running back. That's it. Those are the only 3 things I want to walk away with this draft. Everything else is a luxury. Linebacker, I'll throw a linebacker in there. Those are the only things that I want: linebacker, running back, tackle, center. That's it. Get me those 4 things. Everything else is a luxury.
And linebacker more 4th rounds.
Yeah, late. 6th pick, 5th pick, 4th pick. The only guy I would take high, and this is in under the guys that you're moving on from Quincy and CJ in 2 years. Like, you have to, in your mind, understand that you're moving on from these 2 guys in 2 years, and you're drafting their heir apparents. I love the idea of drafting JL Skinner and converting him to linebacker. I think he has that skill set at an exceptionally high level. And then, like, I imagine in the future, like, our linebacker core can be Jamie Sherwood at middle linebacker, JL Skinner as that weak linebacker. Like, that in my brain computes, but it's just like JL Skinner needs to be like a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. Like, but so it just doesn't match up with the fact of, like, you go tackle in the 1st, you go center in the 2nd, you go linebacker in the 4th, and then you go running back in the 5th. There you go. And then the 6th round pick that we have can be literally whatever. Want to get a defensive tackle? You want to get an edge? You want to get a wide receiver? You want to get a corner? Like, I don't care. And this is going under the guys that we sign a couple of DTs.
And who is the running back you want? Like if we drafted one, and let's say it was a good pick, somebody who's going to make the roster. Let's say you draft someone, they have a great camp. There's no way you exposed them. You drafted them, even though it was late rounds. They're everything you thought they and hoped they would be. Now Breece Hall comes back healthy. You got Breece Hall, Carter, Bam Bam, Ty Johnson, and you have this 5th young running back who you really like. Who's got to go out of those 4 guys? Who's going to go?
Oh, Ty's the odd man out, like, easily. Ty's the odd man out. And there's a lot of guys in this class that I'm a fan of. If you're going like late, like does Tyjae Spears fall out of Tulane? Does Rashawn Johnson out of Texas fall? Does Eric Gray or Israel Abanikanda, are they guys that fall? Like, these are the running backs that are going to be available, should be available in that 4th or 5th round, that I look at and I go, these guys might come in and win the job straight up out of camp. Like, they might be running back 1. I know we love Michael Carter, but the reality is Carter might not be.
Assuming Breece Hall's not 100%, you mean?
Right. I am putting him on the IR. I am not rushing him back.
Pup.
I don't need to.
Pup.
I'm putting him on the IR so that there's no. I'm not. If I'm Joe Douglas, I'm not giving Nathaniel Hackett the option. I'm putting him on the IR so that it's a minimum of 4 weeks. He can't see the field for 4 weeks. There is no need to rush the man back. And like, that's the whole point. I want Breece Hall healthy and 100% with less wear and tear on his legs at the end of the season when we're making our playoff push, when we're pushing for the number 1 seed, when we're doing all of those things. Him at 100% then is way more important to me than the beginning of the season where everyone's still trying to figure out what they are as a defensive system and as an offensive system and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
When you can add a wrench to your offense that is the home run hitting top 5 running back in the NFL, Breece Hall, week 8, let's just say, just for an easy math, right? 16 weeks, let's just say whatever. You can bring him in after the bye week, and now you've got him. Like, and that's the thing. And remember, our wide zone run scheme does really, really well with these running backs. So we don't necessarily need to go super high with a running back. Look at Bam Knight, but I'm not totally confident in saying that a running back room right now of Michael Carter, Bam Knight, and Ty Johnson is good enough, because I don't think it is. I just don't think it is. Michael Carter had a really, really bad year last year. Bam Knight fell off after he had one really good game, and then every other game after that was just kind of bad. And then Ty Johnson, like, he's the type of guy that has game-breaking speed and explosiveness, but he needs the offensive line to do all the work. He can't create the space on his own.
Right.
The offensive line needs to part the Red Sea. And if they can do it, he can beat the safety. He's that fast. The safety's not going to catch him. He'll beat the safety.
Right.
But if there's a linebacker or corner there, he can't make that guy miss. He just can't do it. It's not in his skill set. So, well, let's get a guy who can. Let's see if the guy can. Eric Gray is the guy that I'm slowly but surely starting to fall in love with a little bit more, because I think he's out of Oklahoma, because I think he's going to be available there in the 6th. And it'll give us an opportunity to really do it. But I'm also a big fan of taking like Rashawn Johnson or Israel Abanikanda in like the 5th. I think Israel Abanikanda, after the pro day that he had with Pitt, oh my gosh.
Isn't he more of like a like he'll also give us that 4th and 1 guy, right?
Yes. Yeah. He has that ability. But man, the guy's just explosive and fast. Like he's yes, you can play him on that 4th and 1 up the middle, kind of like power through and explode through the hole. But his 40-yard dash, they're unofficial times because they were clocked in anywhere from 4.26 to 4.32.
That's an insane combination of power and speed. It's insane.
And his vertical jump was 41 inches. He's just explosive. It's what it is. I would love to see what his 10-yard split was, but like, it's one of those things where he's just explosive. And yes, he's a one-cut run kind of guy. He maybe not going to make the guy miss, but he runs, and the way that his legs hit the ground are as if the ground cheated with his girlfriend, like or killed his dog. Like, he just runs angry at the floor. And again, it's one of those guys. He could give you that short yardage ability too. 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, and he can get in there. And he's so explosive and so fast. Any linebacker that's going to come is just going to regret it, because he's just going to eat just man meat.
Well, that complements Breece Hall really well when he's healthy, because one thing that Breece Hall said is these guys in the NFL, these defenders, they don't want to hit certain guys. They don't like it. They don't want. Breece Hall said he sensed it. He goes, they didn't want to hit me because they didn't want anything to do with me. So if you get another guy like that like causes punishment, that the defenders are hesitant and don't like hitting, that makes you a team. Aside from Aaron Rodgers, that makes you a team that's like ugly to play. It gives that the you know what I mean? It's like that ugly feeling, like, oh, I don't want to play those guys. It's not fun. Those guys, it hurts. You know, you gotta we gotta get up our courage to even throw our bodies at them, because they're so, because it's like they punish you.
Yep.
And I've heard it, like Johnny Johnson, who was, the Cardinals, who came to the Jets the years that we had Boomer Esiason, was that kind of running back. Nobody wanted anything to do with him. They hated tackling him. And when he played for the Cardinals, he used to rip the Giants defense apart when they were the Giants, when they had Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks, and he used to rip them apart because he was a running back. They didn't want to deal with him.
Mhm.
He was like very physical. I would love to have those kind of guys.
I don't want to be the team that's unbeatable, right? Like it almost seems like Kansas City is building this offense to where, like, because they have Patrick Mahomes, obviously, but it almost seems like they build this team where it's like, we don't care if our defense can't stop you because your defense can't stop us, right? And there's a benefit to having a team like that, but I would much rather be a team like the Eagles last year. The Eagles weren't like, their run game was lethal, their passing game was lethal, and they had all of these weapons, and their offensive line was one of the best in the NFL, if not the best in the NFL. But like, you would look at the Eagles and you could as a team, like if you're the Jets, you could look at the Eagles and you could be like, I think we could match up against the Eagles. We've got a top 5 defense. You know, we might be able to stop that. I'm not super scared of their running backs. Like Miles Sanders was good. I'm more scared of Jalen Hurts' legs. We've got the 2 best corners in football, so I'm not super scared of Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. And then you go, well, you know what? If we had, let's say, like Aaron Rodgers as our quarterback, you know what? We can play this defense. That's fine. But it just sucks to play against them because every play, Sirianni has those guys coming to you and punching you in the mouth. That's it. Every single play, whether it's 1st and 10 or 3rd and 30, they are coming at it like it's the play that's going to win them the Super Bowl. And it just sucks to play against the Eagles because they just play so hard. And I think the Jets are play like that, especially on defense. Like, you just dread facing our defense because your guys aren't going to get open. It's just reality of it.
Right.
And if they do get open, you're going to get hit hard by 9 guys. And then we're going to rotate our D-line out. And now you're going to face a guy who's fresh, just injected some Gatorade right into his veins. So he's got that sugar flowing. And so, like, you have to face, right, Carl Lawson or JFM, 1st down and 2nd down. And that's a hard matchup. And now you're like, Jesus Christ, we got 4 yards on those 2 plays. And then Bryce Huff is coming off of the sideline. You got to face this guy. And then JJ and coming on the other side, and now he's fresh. And Quinnen Williams is still there, just absolutely being disruptive. It's just like, we should suck to play against, and that's what we're building. And guys like Israel Abanikanda, Breece Hall, even Ty Johnson, because he knows he's not going to make the guy miss. He'll drop a shoulder. He's not carrying that much weight, but he'll go downhill and he'll just be like, screw it. Let's just see who's got more power right now. Like, I don't care that you got 10 pounds on me. I've got 10 miles per hour on you right now. You're standing still. I'm at like 11 miles an hour. Let's go. And it just sucks. And so you know what? In the first half, you're taking those hits, but you get off to the second half, you get a little cold, your muscles start cramping. And then you see Bryce Hall coming up the middle. You're just like, do we really need to stop this touchdown right now? Is that really what I want to do?
It starts to really hurt. It really hurts. It's physical pain. It's a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And no, I would love it. I like that Israel kid. I'm all over that, man, with his power. I love the power and speed. To have a guy that we could talk about being a 4th and 1, 4th and goal, 3rd and 1 guy, but also sometimes when you say that, sometimes you think more like of an Ezekiel Elliott, right? A guy, yes, but no speed, no explosiveness, like power can only get you the 1 yard. But when you start talking about a kid who's running 4.2, 4.3 type speed, and can do that.
Imagine 210 pounds at 4.2 speed, at 4.2, at 4.26, 4.28, right? 210 pounds at 4.28. Just insane. It's one of those things where, like, I used to play lacrosse, like at a really, really high level. And one of the things in lacrosse is like, you have to wear an elbow pad, you have to wear a shoulder pad, but like, you wanted the mobility. So like, kids used to wear little elbow pads, like just covered the bone. And I did this too. You would cut off the shoulder pad because you didn't wear the shoulder pads for the padding on the shoulder. You wore it for the chest protection. After there was a kid who wasn't wearing shoulder pads because it wasn't part of the rules, and he took a lacrosse ball right to the chest. And the same thing that happened to Damar Hamlin happened to him, where his heart just stopped because he got hit in that perfect, and he died because no one knew what was happening. So you have to wear the chest protector. for that reason. But like I would cut off my shoulder pads, I would wear these little things. And we went up against my buddy's school, and I realized he played defense and I played as an attack. And one of the things I realized is whenever I got the ball, he would constantly hit me on my left hand right here. He would whack me right here every single time. And as a kid, I had the pain tolerance of a champion. I played lacrosse. Like it was one of those things. It didn't hurt. But by the end of the game, I couldn't hold my stick with my left hand. I couldn't switch to my left hand and just have it in because I couldn't close my hand. It's the same thing with like those leg kicks that you see in the UCF, right? Why are people kicking the legs? Because eventually he's going to put his leg down and it's not going to be there.
Right.
That's just the reality of it. And that's the whole point. Like if we've got 4 guys that we can just run back at you over and over and over again and over and over and over again and over and over and over again, you got to Breece Hall on first down, Israel Abanikanda on second down, and then Bam Knight on third down. What linebacker wants to take those hits? Name me a linebacker that wants to take those hits back to back to back.
It reminds me of the Giants. Back in the mid '80s, they had this kid, Louis Tillman. They would get a lead. They had this great defense, and he was 240 pounds, freaking animal. And they would just hand them the ball, and they would run out the clock because nobody could tackle him. He would just power himself like a lunatic violently into the line, and they would just all hang on, and and it would be 4 or 5 yards a carry, and they would just walk down the field and eat up the clock. In the fourth quarter.
For this,
huh?
Who's the guy that went to the Steelers when they won their Super Bowl? The running back, the bus.
Nobody wanted to tackle him, man.
Oh, Jerome Bettis. Oh my gosh.
Bettis. Nobody wanted to mess with
300-pound running back.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's the Derrick Henry effect. You know what I mean? He's just so hard to bring down, and he hits you so hard.
Yeah.
It's a fun time. This draft is going to be really interesting because we can go in so many different directions. Because even though we have both said, or we tend to agree, oh, I want an offensive tackle in the first and a center in the second. And I know I'm one of the very few people that wants a running back because I don't want to pay for a running back. And I honestly don't know if Michael Carter is on this team past this year because we can get out from under him. And if he doesn't have a bounce back year, we have Bam. We've maybe got this other kid. Again, I love me some Michael Carter, but that's the reality of it, especially with all his hissy fits that he's been doing recently.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, if he brings those hissy fits into the clubhouse, he's gone.
Yeah. And so there's one of those things where I keep looking at that stuff. But would I be surprised if we didn't take a tackle in the first round? Not really. Would I be surprised if we didn't take a center at all? Not really. There's so many different directions that we can go. Truthfully, that I wouldn't like.
Yeah, no, it's really hard to know 100%. Although I will say, the process of how he got there was confusing. But by the time the first round ended, it had all made sense and was kind of what we thought. We got the wide receiver and the edge like we thought, So it did end up happening. And then the year before that, when we traded up for ABT, we were thinking offensive line. It was the trade up was fun because that was the first time JD had done anything like that. And as Jet fans, we weren't used to it. So it was really exciting and shocking. But I agree. This is the most unpredictable draft. Yes, I think tackle and center feel like the obvious things. But now after last year, I kind of don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what he's really going to do. If Broderick is there at 13 and we don't trade the pick, I really can't. I don't see how we're going to pass him up.
Yeah.
I don't.
If there's one player, remember how Connor Rogers last year said if Icky is there at 4, he doesn't see how Joe Douglas passes him up. I never bought that. But Jones is definitely a guy that I look at. And if you're Joe Douglas, an offensive line guy, and you see that sky high potential in a year where I could feel comfortable putting him as offensive tackle 4 and stashing him as the backup to the backup, Yeah. There's a good to fair chance that he doesn't see the field in year 1, and that's fine. And what
a luxury. What a luxury to not like, because the Giants had to suffer through Andrew Thomas having a bad rookie year, and then he was fine. Then now with Neal, they had, he had a rough year. He'll probably be fine. I mean, people forget sometimes offensive linemen have bad first rookie years, right?
They all did. All of the offensive linemen, like none of them had like spectacular years. A lot of them were average. And like, that's the thing, right? When you look at some of these guys who were taken, when they were taken, you'd be surprised. Like Lucas and Mitchell, like those guys were average tackles, but they were taken in like the 3rd round and in the 4th round. And you're just like, that's fantastic. That's fantastic value for those guys. But like Icky was average, and you probably wanted him to be more than that. Neal was just outright horrible, and you wanted him to be more than that. Cross was average, and you probably wanted him to be more than that. So,
yeah. So I mean, what a luxury to be able to sit a guy. I mean, it's a cool thing. Like the whole Jeremy Ruckert thing. People don't understand. People were worried. What does it mean? Was it a mistake to take him? No, it's a luxury. It's a luxury that Jeremy Ruckert got to, first of all, heal because he had that issue with his foot. We didn't have to rush him in and make that a dragging type of injury. And that we got to just develop him and let him mature and practice with an NFL team for a year. And then he comes in against Miami in the final game and starts pancaking some people, ready to go. So I feel,
it's the idea that people have, and it's a bad idea, and it's brought because of the hype that these 1st-round players get. And it's the ideology or the thought process that players need to be drafted to start right away. And that's not how general managers evaluate talent.
Right.
This player should be an impact player for my team in 2 years. That's how you draft. 2 years from now, is this guy going to be an impact player for my team? That's the way that you look at it. That's the way you need to look at it. Now, we're spoiled because of the fact that we literally just got off of a year where we had the offensive and defensive rookie of the year. And followed before that, we had Elijah Vera Tucker being one of the best guards in football. And then the year before that, Mekhi Becton and being one of the most dominant left tackles in football. Joe Douglas has had a good track record of getting guys that impact immediately. Now, Mekhi Becton fell off. Elijah Vera Tucker got hurt. I get all that. Breece Hall was on pace to win the offensive rookie of the year before he got hurt. Jermaine Johnson probably could have if he had more playing time, I think he could have probably competed or at least been in the conversation for maybe a defensive rookie of the year. If you look at percentage of snaps, and his effectiveness last year was just insane. Now I'm really high on Jermaine Johnson. I love the kid.
Me too.
But all of that being said, like, people are worried and forget about Jermaine Johnson, and they're like, oh, he's a 1st-round pick. But I was like, guys, we have Jonathan Franklin Myers and Carl Lawson. He's a 2-year prospect. Yeah, we're going to keep Carl Lawson this year, but you know what we're not going to keep next year? Carl Lawson. He's not going to be back on the team next year. But you know who will be? Jermaine Johnson.
Right. He'll be the guy.
You know who we can get out from under next year? Oh, no, we can't because we restructured his contract. Never mind. But, like, that's a reality. And then next year, he's going to have 2 years of NFL experience under his belt.
I really like to lock. I'm a big fan of Bryce Huff. I'm really hoping we could lock him in for a bunch of years. Like, I mean, I really like him, man. As a
I do too. Specialist. That face is not about him as a player. That face is about him at his price point.
Yeah.
Like, again, we tagged him, which is the right move. Tendered him, which is the right move. We hit him with the 2nd-round tender, which was the right thing to do.
Well, especially in this draft. Tigo, you're right. It's perfect for this draft. It's perfect for this draft. We both are thinking the same exact thing because this is the draft of all drafts. If somebody came and took Huff and we got a 2nd-round pick, we could literally just pick an edge with that pick.
I'll take Thule. Like, for real. I'll take Thule. I'll take Adebaware. I'll take, like, there's a bunch of edges that I would feel really comfortable with in the 2nd round to replace that. And here's the other thing, too. Like, I also really like Michael Clemens, and I feel totally fine giving Michael Clemens that job. But, like, BJ Ojolari, Adebaware, Tui Pelota, Carter II, Brooks, Herbig, Foskey, Hall, McGuire, KJ Henry, Byron Young. Like, there's guys. But here's the thing. If we go under the assumption that I think a lot of people have, that is that, like he's going to build on this year, well, he might play himself in a position where he can't be on the team because he's just going to ask for so much money and he's going to deserve it. And we're just not going to be able to do it. Like, and that's the reality of it. Like, I love me some Bryce Huff, but if he goes out there and has the same year, like, he's going to be able to, I was hoping we would give him the Jacob Martin contract and he would take it. But I think he was wanting more money. And I would not be surprised if he gets like a $10 million contract from somebody.
They hold him so much, it was insane. Like, we'd be screaming, they're holding him. Like, it was blatant. I think that, by the way, just a little off topic, that one complaint about Salah, one thing that we have to get better at as a coaching staff is knowing how to deal with these referees and putting an end to that. Like Bill, that doesn't happen to New England. Well, like, New England doesn't have one of their defensive edges held all day. Like, Belichick doesn't let that happen.
It's not Belichick, though. It's misappropriating where the thing is. Belichick has respect because of the last 25 years.
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's the difference. We don't have that respect because why should we? We've been the New York Jets for the last 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You have to earn the right to get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to a call. And we haven't earned that right.
Yeah, maybe we will after last year. This year, coming in second year, if their defense is good. I just can't believe how much they hold Bryce Huff. I mean, it was like so, like, I mean, you could see it live. It's like during the play, Green Bay has a better eye for it than me. And because I'm like, I don't know what I'm focused on in a play, but he looks at specific things and he's screaming, they're holding Huff. He's screaming at the TV, they're holding Huff. And then they show a replay and it's blatant holding.
Here's the thing. If you wanted to, you can call every rep between an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman holding. Every rep. Because that's what they're taught. You grab right here. You grab their shoulder pads. Your hands are supposed to come inside. You're supposed to grab the shoulder pads. You're supposed to bring the guy really close to you, and you can't let him escape. This is the reality of it. Like, that's kind of what you're taught to do. And every rep has holding in it. But you're not going to get those calls when you're the New York Jets. When you're, like, there's no, like, when it's not in the script, let's just boom. Yeah, it's not in the script. Jets aren't supposed to win. It's not part of the NFL script. So, like, but it's just when you get Aaron Rodgers. Remember last year we didn't get a single defensive a roughing the passer call. Not one. All of last year, 18 weeks, we didn't get a pass interference call.
Right.
Not one.
Not one.
That's going to change because you got to protect Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to let a team take a free shot on Aaron Rodgers. Who cares about Zach Wilson? Who cares about Mike White?
Right.
And to be fair, the Mike White hits, I think they were all clean. I don't think there was a single bad hit on Mike White.
No, the Buffalo hit on him was clean.
The definition of a clean tackle.
Yeah.
But, like, there were some situations where he got hit and you're just like where Zach got hit and you're just like, that's late. Like, that's blatantly late. And we're not getting a call for that. And it's just like, well, yeah, why should we? And again, why should you? Well, because it's the rules. Like, just call the rules, right? But it's let players play kind of crap. And it's just like, that's so dumb.
Yeah, no one's taking cheap shots at Aaron Rodgers. And, you know, especially with Dwayne Brown in there. And one thing about Lakin, he played like crap, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to let that fly. And, you know,
Mekhi won't either.
Mekhi Becton's not going to let that fly. Yeah.
Neither will AVT.
Right.
AVT wasn't the type of guy to let that stuff slide. Those four guys are coming flying at somebody who's taking a late hit on a guy like that.
Plus,
and
we have
last year.
Plus our tight ends this year, because that was 2 years ago with Zach when no one did anything. But now our tight ends,
CJ will come flying off.
CJ will mess you up.
Tyler will come. Tyler's a Viking.
Yeah.
He'll come off of the top rope with an axe. You know, like, we've got guys that are going to really get. Alan Lazard's that type of guy too. He'll get right in your face.
Oh yeah.
Like
I saw him put two wide receivers on the two defensive backs on the ground in one block.
have you seen the one where he does three? He's sitting there counting. He
That-
puts the three guys. It's a defensive end, a linebacker, and a corner. He grabs the corner, throws him right into the defensive end, who falls into the linebacker, and he's just sitting there because Aaron Jones, I think, is the one, or
yeah,
I think it's Aaron, and he just sits there and he goes. I'm just like, I love it, man. And that's the thing. Like, we've got nasty mofos on the team now who aren't going to let any of that stuff happen. And then it's just one of those things where, like, once you add Aaron Rodgers, the offense is going to fire up the defense. The defense is going to fire up the offense, and it's just going to keep going. Like, it's an exciting year. It's an exciting year for sure. And the draft is less than a month away. I'm so excited. And my cruise is less than a month away. I'm so excited.
That's amazing. That's amazing. See, you're not going to be on the cruise during the draft, are you?
Last day of the draft is the first day of my cruise.
Okay, so day 3,
so
you don't care.
I'll miss rounds 6 and 7.
Okay.
Technically, because I will be on the cruise. I won't miss them because they'll be on the TV, but and I'll have it on my phone, and we'll still be close enough to where I'll have like service and stuff. But those days are going to be the days that I will technically miss. I'm excited. We're going to do some cruise videos. We're getting the internet package. It's going to be fun.
That's going to be awesome, dude. It's going to be awesome. There's not, I love me a good cruise. I just love it. It's just, I mean, it's just no worries. Everything is just done for you. I love that kind of stuff, but everything is just done.
Yep.
So I'm one of those rare people. Me and my wife fight over this, but like, because we totally disagree. I like the days at sea when there's no pressure to get off.
Those are the best days. I hate the days at port.
Right. I don't like
that I hate them, but it's just like I've been to so many of these places so many times, so often that I just look at it and I go like for example, like it's one of those things where I look at it and I go, I've been to Grand Cayman before.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm super excited to go to a Grand Cayman post-pandemic. We went on a cruise right at the end of COVID last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was the last like kind of vacation. It was like it was one of the couple baby moons that we did before my wife was like that was, we believe that our son was conceived on this cruise. Let's just say it that way. Right. Cause we knew that we were going to start trying to have kids. So we were trying to get some traveling done. And so like, it was disappointing. Like the Bahamas was just sad because everything was closed. Everything shut down. Tourism is their whole business and everything shut down. And like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I the days at sea to me, there's just no pressure to get off the boat. My wife's always like, it's just tourist trap, like shopping, like to me, it's just like, give me the day at sea where we're sitting out at the pool. We're drinking cocktails. We're just deciding what we're going to eat, just food everywhere. And it's just laziness and just whatever you want. You just relaxed. That we had our best days like that, especially it got a little cooler in the early evening and we get into the hot tub and that we met a few people, gotten together with them for dinner. Like, I just like that. I like the no pressure to do anything kind of days. When the world is your oyster, it's like, and I always get the drink bracelet. They used to do it unlimited drinks, but then the last one I did was like, you get 12 a day, like 12 specialty drinks a day, cocktails, or you can go to like the coffee shop and get like a real vitamin water or something. And 12, by the way, was plenty. I had no problem with 12. It was fine. They were just making sure people didn't abuse it because I think people used to abuse it and get other people drinks and stuff.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing.
So when you say you could have up to 12 drinks a day, what you're saying is we want it to feel like it's unlimited drinks because 12 drinks really is enough, but we also can't have you just getting everybody else drinks all day.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
baby woke up, so I'm going to get out of here.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. You saved me before too.
Yeah.
Everybody give it up for Talking Jets with Tico. You're going to be on tonight, right?
Yes, 9:30. Talking Jets with Tico live stream. I still have no idea what we're going to talk about.
All right, guys. 9:30 Eastern. I think it's every Friday now. I found that out because I was on a Friday night once, And every once in a while, I check to make sure that is anybody else on. And I saw you on, and I was like, "Oh my God, is that his time slot?" And I felt bad, and I got off in like 10 minutes. I wrapped it up and got off. But and then I knew. I said, "Okay, Tigo, 9:30 Fridays. Leave that time slot alone." So
it's I'm never scared of a little competition. It's like, again, it's a dog eat dog world, but I appreciate it.
yeah, but we have the same followers, the same chat people. It's stupid for us to be on against each other. It doesn't make sense because we're putting everybody in that position of having to, you know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense when you have the same audience. So,
all righty, let me get out of here.
Bro.
I'm gonna go take care of the baby, and we'll see
you
everybody
tonight.
at 9:30.
Yep. Talking Jets with Tigo, everybody. It'll be fun tonight. He'll think of something to talk about. I know he will. Harry W. So welcome to the chat. Harry, you know, I bet you've been on a lot of cruises. You seem like a cruise guy. You like the sea days also. I got to tell you, I'll tell you the 2 cruises I did recently. Me and my wife used to do the Eastern Caribbean cruises, but the cruises that we really enjoyed we did it with my parents. We wanted, and it's lucky because now they're having a hard time, and I don't know if we're ever going to be able to do any real travel with them. So we knew that the clock was winding down for their ability to do things. So my oldest brother and his wife and me and my wife went on a cruise. The first year we did Alaska, and we did the 10 or 11 day sea and land. And what that was we went to Denali. So you fly to Alaska to Anchorage, and you get on this luxury train. And man, we handed up, me and my wife. We got drunk. We're eating food. We're on this beautiful train, all glass window, and it was a clear day, so you could see Denali. We saw wild animals, and it was like an 8-hour train ride. But man, it went by fast because I was drunk, and we went down to one of the cars on the bottom where you could be outside. Me and my wife were like the fresh air. And then you're at Denali, and it doesn't get dark until like 11 p.m., midnight or something. So we were hiking at like 10:30 p.m., and it felt like it's the morning. And we went on this great hike with my brother and his wife. And then we spent 2 days in Denali, and you get to do excursions. So we did a thing where we got to see the dogs that pull the sleds in the racing, and the great Alejandro, whatever the hell they named that race. And you learn about their lives. And anyway, we got to hold puppies, and it was great. It was great. You have a great time. And then you take a bus ride out of there, and the bus takes you back to Anchorage into to the cruise ship. And then you get on the cruise ship, and you get a week cruise in Alaska. And it was fantastic. We got to see the glaciers and all the great stuff. Wonderful time. It wasn't long days at sea. Like, it wasn't like the long travel. It was like a port every day. And you can get off or you not get off. It didn't matter. We got off because it was different. Like Alaska, it wasn't so much like the touristy Bermuda. It was, you got off because you can then take like a ski lift to the top of a mountain and look at the snow. And it was amazing. And we had a great family trip. And then the next year we had such a good time. We said, hey, Mom, Dad, let's do it again. Because a year later, they were still healthy enough to do it. And we did Hawaii, which was another one with, it wasn't big. It wasn't like you didn't travel far. You just island hopped. But my parents had never been to Hawaii, and they got to see 4 or 5 islands, or I think it was 4 islands. They got to see Maui. They got to see Kauai. They got to see Oahu. And they got to see Kona. All in 1 week. So it was a great trip, and we had a really good time. Looks like we have a new subscriber. Peter, what's up? That's a new subscriber here. I'm very hyped about the highly potential Aaron Rodgers trade. Well, be hyped. I'd say it's more than potential. It's going to happen. I promise you. Just curious to hear your take on who should be QB2 if he does indeed get traded. Okay, so I want to say I'm very confident that we're getting Aaron Rodgers, and it's because both teams kind of have no choice. They have to do it. So we're definitely going to get, I promise you, we're going to get our guy. We're going to get A-Rod. It's just a matter of what the price is and when it's going to happen. I think that Zach Wilson will be the QB2. I don't think we're going to sign a third quarterback with the intention of them being QB2 over Zach, unless Zach doesn't change in practice. Like if Zach can't complete 10-yard passes, if he's throwing the ball on the ground, if he's done, if he's destroyed internally, mentally, if he's destroyed, I don't think he'll be the QB2. But I think if he's throwing well and the ball's not touching the ground and he's doing, if he's playing like the Zach that was actually like the end of season 1, the Zach that played against Pittsburgh, the Zach that actually played okay against Detroit, if he's that Zach, I think he's a manageable QB2. I think he's a serviceable QB2. He beat Buffalo by being a game manager. So if he's that Zach that's showing he could be a game manager and keep us in a game, I'm not saying it's ideal. The last thing we want to see is Aaron Rodgers get hurt, and I'm not going to sit there and argue that Zach Wilson's a great QB2. But I think he might be a serviceable one, and I think he has a high ceiling as one. Meaning, I still think there's enough talent there that if it clicks, if something in his head clicks and he's mentally there, I think we've seen little bits and pieces that Zach can play really well and have a high ceiling. Obviously, what would be ideal is that Aaron Rodgers plays all 17 games, doesn't get hurt, and it's not something we have to worry about. Because Zach also has a very low floor that we saw against New England, an extremely low floor where you can't win with him. So he's been at both levels. He's been at like so bad that you can't even win. And then he has a ceiling where we could be very good and we could beat anybody with him if he plays smart, and does everything the right way, which is not uncommon for any QB2, right? I mean, I'm kind of describing a lot of second string quarterbacks. What's surprising me is that by not signing anybody, it's hard for me to believe that they're going with Streveler as QB3. So I think that maybe there's a chance. I don't think anybody sees this. I think there's a sneaky chance we're going to draft a quarterback in the later rounds, like possibly the kid from Stanford, the kid from Houston. I think we talked to that guy, Connor or something from what school am I thinking? Jesus, Purdue, O'Connell or something like that. We could just talk to a quarterback. I think there's a sneaky chance that we're going to draft a quarterback, but I don't think a 4th, 5th round quarterback, unless they win it in camp, is going to replace Zach Wilson as quarterback too. I think that's just going to be a pipeline developmental, throw a dart, see what happens kind of guy. But nothing's impossible. If Zach came in and was just awful again, if he came in and he just was ridiculously bad and it finally sunk in and we finally had to deal with the fact that there's no hope, he mentally can't do it, you might see some, like a Brock Purdy situation where a kid comes in. So we'll find out. But for right now, Zach Wilson's the QB2 for right now. I mean, there's no question about it. There is nobody else. Let's say the Aaron Rodgers trade does not go through. Zach Wilson is our best option. I still think he could play. When Brees was healthy, Zach was playing well. I know people are going to hate this comment. Yeah, people are going to hate that comment, but at the same time, I kind of agree with it. And it goes to what I was just saying. I still believe there's a ceiling. I still believe there's a ceiling that's high for Zach Wilson, but I believe that there's a floor for Zach Wilson that's not even functional. Like, that's the thing about it. It is so scary because he could be this guy that I've seen play really well. The Buffalo game, he didn't play great, but he was a game manager and he allowed our talented team to have a chance to win. And we beat an excellent team, a Super Bowl contender. I also saw him have an up and down game, but a game where we beat Tennessee his rookie year, like his 3rd game of his career, where he was spectacular, where he was absolutely spectacular. It is year 3. It's a new offensive coordinator. It's a real quarterback coach. It's Aaron Rodgers talking to him and giving him advice. It could happen. It could really, really happen. I think that our fan base, I see you saying toxic, and it's true. I think that our fan base gets so extreme. And it's like, yes, he's been very disappointing overall. He has. It's unfortunate. It breaks my heart. I was a huge Zach guy. I know that we can't go into a season with him as the number 1. I know that's not ideal because it could just be a wasted season and he was so bad. But there's a part of me who also recognizes that his ceiling could be high, that with the right coaching and more important than the coaching, clicking, the speed of the game clicking. Mike White talked about it. He said there was a moment where the game clicked for him. There's always that small little chance that could happen for Zach Wilson. The talent is there. The arm talent, all that stuff was there. We've seen it. The talent is there. It's all mental. It's all mental, and it's all speed of the game. Will he ever be able to adjust to the speed of the game? I think that if you watch Strevler when he came in, as exciting as it was, the reason why he's not QB2 is watch the pass that should have been a touchdown. Like, watch how, like, everybody's look. Yeah, I understood they didn't adjust, and he was able to run and do some exciting things. But you understand in that drive against Jacksonville, we had a touchdown left on the table. Like, we had a wide open tight end uncovered in the middle of the field, and he underthrew him by 10 yards. And it looked good on paper because it was a completion, because the tight end came in and caught it. But it was a blown touchdown, and that would have put us back in the game. I'm not saying Zach would have done better. The reason we were in that situation is because Strevler was making it a game. But you don't want Strevler in there, because they'll adjust to him. They'll put spies on him. They'll stop him from running, and he's not an NFL passing quarterback. He just isn't. So I agree. That's the game, the Pittsburgh game, the fourth quarter of that Pittsburgh game, man. When he didn't have time to think, when he wasn't thinking, when he was just going with his instinct and his talents, he was there. I thought that was his breakout game. I thought we found our Zach Wilson. That was when he became, to me, the guy we drafted. But then he got back into his head. It's all in his head. Because that Pittsburgh game in that fourth quarter, he was not in his head. He was just throwing the freaking ball. And when he just lets himself just play and throw the ball, like that Tennessee game too, he could play. And it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. And there's still a little part of me, especially if we get Aaron Rodgers and he only plays a year or 2 years. And if we can keep Zach on the roster, he might grow under Aaron Rodgers. It might happen. So we'll see. And it's not like we ever gave Zach Wilson a great offensive line. So, and I'm not making I know Zach was a disappointment. I'm not in denial, but we didn't exactly give him a good offensive line. We didn't exactly put the best situation around him, but the other quarterbacks, every other quarterback we put in there played better. And that's the problem. But I honestly think that most of it was in Zach's head. I don't think it's an ability thing. I don't think we missed on that. I don't think JD missed on that. I think the talent is there. His ability to run, scramble, his ability to throw on the run, I think all those things are very real. It's just mentally, he just broke down when he saw the pressure coming. He collapsed. It's unfortunate. I wish that we didn't even have to have the conversation for A-Rod. I wish that if Zach would have worked out, we'd be a contender for the next 10 years or 5 years, because we'd have him on the cheap. That's the best window of opportunity for a team to be a Super Bowl contender. When you have a quarterback that hits that you drafted, and you have a few years that you don't have to pay him $50 million. So you have money for everything else. And then the way we hit with Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner and Breece Hall, AVT, like all the good hits and all the good stars we put on the team, if Zach Wilson would have panned out, think of how good we would have been last year. Two things: our offensive line stays healthy and we get good quarterback play. Think of what would have happened last year. We were going to be very special. That's why A-Rod comes in. We patch up our offensive line in the draft, make sure we have some depth there. Breece Hall comes back. Lights out, guys. We're going to be a real team. Get ready. Buckle your seatbelts. We're going to be in for a hell of a ride, because this is going to be a real team. Because we had the ranked 32nd in quarterback play last year, and that's everything. The injuries and that's why it all went to crap on us. AVT and Breece Hall don't go down, and we're able to keep that offensive line together, and Breece Hall, the way he was playing, it's a very different situation. Very different game. Different season. So Fingers crossed, man. The A-Rod thing is gonna happen. So, thanks for the super chat, brother. I appreciate that. That keeps this channel going. I can't tell you that much. Can't tell you how much it helps. Getting these, every once in a while, it gets a little type, the accumulation of a month's worth of super chats. And of course, my members who join the channel, a little bit of money from there, it pays the bills for this channel. It pays for the, StreamYard account, and my thumbnails are made in Canva. I got to pay for that. So I appreciate the super chats because it helped. That's what that money goes to. It really just goes to keeping this channel. And, eventually, if I can turn a profit, I want to do what Buffalo did. I want to get better cameras and better camera, better portable mic. Like, there's a lot of things. It's never ending. There's always things that you want in a studio to make it better. Right now, I'm looking at my computer. I would love to get a quality camera that I connect to the computer that I'm going to put on some kind of tripod that's pointing at me. It'll be much better quality. So I appreciate the super chats. I just want to say that. Thank you. And you're saying, name my favorite player from the 90s. Keep up the good work, man. So, I like the typical guys, I guess, that everybody loved, right? I mean, you had your Curtis Martin, when Parcells came, and Mawai, who was it, man? I'm forgetting back then who we had on our offensive line. I mean, there were the offensive linemen. I mix up players over the years, but I'm going to tell you, before we got good in the 80s, I see you said Victor Green. I freaking love Victor Green. I have a Victor Green story. We met Victor Green. Me and my buddies drove down to Florida for the Super Bowl. We went to Miami, 1994. We drove down to the Super Bowl, and we met Victor Green. He was there hanging out in some suite, and some cop that we knew that didn't go down with us somehow had a connection to him, and we got to meet him, and it was all exciting and all that stuff. And he was telling us about like this young quarterback, Ray Lucas, who's going to be really good. And I'm forgetting who the wide receiver he liked. It was the wide receiver that we didn't give a chance, and he went to Atlanta. I think Mathis, and he had like 100 receptions and was great in Atlanta. But anyway, this Victor Green, I think, was the guy telling us about it. Ray Lucas should be the quarterback, and I think he went to Cincinnati and did really well for a little bit. But he also told us about the wide receiver. Anyway, that was that. So here's a guy I love. Most people who know me, who have been watching the channel a long time, know this. We had a guy in the early 90s named James Hasty. He played, he was a cornerback when I think McMillan was on the team too. We weren't very good as a team, but I love James Hasty because the Jets had nothing to be happy about, like in the early 90s. And I used to watch with my buddy in college, and I go to his house. Like when I was in college, I go to he's a childhood friend, and I would go to his house on when I was home on Sunday and not on campus. And I'd watch with his dad, his family. And we used to love watching James Hasty play because not only was he good, he was a talker. So there was nothing to be excited about with our team, except James Hasty never shut up. Like you could see his helmet snapping. He would barking. He talked trash all game long, and it made us laugh. And I just fell in love with him because of that. I love the fact that at least we could watch this guy just never shut up and verbally abuse the other team all game long. So James Hasty was a guy I loved. I absolutely loved James Hasty in the 90s. Rich, what's going on, brother? But thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you supporting the channel now and being part of the channel. So stick around. I am on every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. on our Wacky Wednesday show. That's my main night. I do a show most Sunday nights when Dom C is not on cruise ships, where Dom C comes in as an expert. He's a guy who watches a lot of tape, and he gives us all his rankings. And we're actually going to rank the running backs next show when he's back from his cruise, not this Sunday, but the Sunday afterwards. And then we're going to start doing overall player rankings, draft talk, and things like that. That'll be on Sunday night. Dom C is a genius. He knows about every player coming out in the 2023 class, or at least the top 150 guys. So it's real knowledge, and it makes the draft fun because when the draft comes, you'll have a much better idea who's available and who these guys are that we're picking. So that'll be cool and everything. So Edward Ziff got his Joe Klecko throwback. That's awesome. Awesome. Joe Klecko, classic Jetman. That's like if you said, who's your favorite Jet from the 80s? Klecko's in the conversation. There's a lot, though. I mean, I'm your typical 80s Jets fan. Like, I love, Ken O'Brien, Wesley Walker, Al Toon, Freeman McNeil, Mickey Schuler, Lance Mel. I mean, these were my guys. Joe Klecko, Marty Lyons, Mark Gastineau, Abdul Salam. I mean, these were my guys. These were the guys I loved. So, I mean, those were my teams. Those were my years, that I grew up, that made me a Jet fan, made me love the team. Those were the guys. It's never quite the same after that as when you're 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. Nothing replaces in your heart players like that. Like you just love them forever. So those were definitely my guys. And Joe Klecko was one of those guys. Joe Klecko, just outstanding player. 3 positions, all pro level. Just one of the great players that we've ever had in our organization. So, and Peter says it too. Yeah, Ken O'Brien was the guy before he got hurt. He tore his rotator cuff and that ended him. And he just wasn't the same. But those first couple of years up until 85, 86, he was tearing it up, man. He was tearing it up. He was putting up Marino type numbers. He was beating Marino, going head to head against them. And I loved Richard Todd. Unfortunately the interceptions got us, but that's how I grew into being a fan. Like my first couple of years as a fan, it started with that Buffalo wildcard game with Richard Todd interception, and the next year we were all hyped up. We went all the way to the AFC Championship, and then the Mud Bowl happened. But it never made me hate Richard Todd. I was disappointed at the result, but I loved Richard Todd. He was my first Jets quarterback. Like he was the first quarterback that I knew in my life as a fan. And he got us to an AFC Championship game. He was part of that team. That was super exciting. So I'll never, as sad as I am about how it ended, I'll always love and appreciate Richard Todd. So Melvin is saying, "Oh my God, Rodgers is not a Jet yet." You know what? I'm gonna stay live until he's a Jet. I'm gonna quit my job on Monday if he's not a Jet. But I'm sorry, I can't come in. I'm gonna be the first. I'm just gonna keep. I'm just kidding. But oh my God, it'll happen. The Mud Bowl ruined my senior year. Yeah, I was a little younger than that. It wasn't my senior. I think it was my senior year in elementary school. It was my 6th grade year in elementary school. I was too young for it to ruin a year, because when you're 11, 12 years old, it's like a year is 10 years. So, but I was brokenhearted. They broke my heart. I mean, isn't that how you start? I mean, isn't that what makes us Jet fans? They break your heart, right? And then, I mean, most Jet fans, their fandom is built around heartbreak and, trauma. So Dwayne O is here. Have no fear. Dwayne is here. Good to see you, brother. Glad you're here. You were chatty last night in Green Bean Show. That was fun. I usually am in the back for Green Bean, producing, and then I come in for like 15 minutes at the end. But for those of you who don't know, Green Bean was having some trouble last night with his connectivity. And the worst case scenario is if Green Bean was out, and at times he was, but sometimes there were times where this happened when he used to travel, he'd be gone for 30 minutes and somebody would just be, whoever his guest was just stuck. And Gunny is a great YouTube content provider. He's perfectly capable of doing it, but it's harder when you don't have control of the chat. And it's just easier to have somebody there when you can't highlight the chat or anything. So I suggested in the background, I said, Green Bean, I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't even have to talk. But if you want to just bring me into the show, I'll only respond when you ask me a question. But I'll hang around. So if you get thrown out, Gunny has somebody to bounce off of and work with. And so Green Bean said that's a good idea and brought me in. And I got to spend an hour and a half on the Thursday thick of it. And that was incredible. It was a great time. We had a really good time. So there's no W. So, is it Dane? Oh, because I see Dwayne. Is it Dano? So it's Dane. Like Dane is in when I watched that show, The Last Kingdom on Netflix. Like the Danes will rule. We'll beat the Saxons and take over England. We're the Danes. Yeah, look, I mean, Green Bean is the show, but like, he's the show. So if you suddenly lose Green Bean, if he freezes and he's off for 20 minutes, you don't want to be one guy alone having to fill in for that. So that was the idea. It was like me and Gunny have worked together in the past. He used to be on this channel a lot, so we have a lot of experience working off of each other. So it wasn't an issue for us. That's the one good thing that I've had in this last 2 years is I've worked with a lot of people. Me and Green Bean do all the games together. I get to do the watch party with him. So me and Green Bean are like peanut butter and jelly. I mean, we used to do an international show on Saturday mornings. We're like totally good as a team. And then I work, obviously you guys saw today at Tigo like crazy. Me and Tigo have streamed hours together. And then me and Watsuke have streamed, Watsuke has been with me in the beginning. We've streamed for hours. Gunny and I have streamed a lot together. I've streamed with Buffalo Jet Fan a lot. Used to bring him on the show all the time when he was building up his channel. He's had me on his channel. I've had O'Leary on, and I've gotten to work with O'Leary at halftime during our watch parties. So I've been very fortunate that for the most part, most of the YouTube content providers, even Boy Green, I've done a lot with him. We've been on a bunch together, especially early on. Nick Shine, obviously, I brought on, and everybody loves Nick. So it's good. I have a lot of experience working with different people. So it's easy for me to jump on people's streams. It's easy for me to have people on my streams because I just have I've gotten to have a lot of opportunity and experience working with different people. So it's refreshing to have Green Bean when so many fans have been with us only since the Rex era. Yeah, look, that's the thing. That's why me and Green Bean get along so well. Me and Green Bean started watching literally within a year of each other. Like we became fans. I became a fan right before the Mud Bowl year, and Green Bean became a fan during the Mud Bowl year, I think. Like we were right there together. So we have the same memories and we built the same history as Jet fans together. So it's nice to have that. I mean, look, we have people in these streams who go back to Namath. Harry W. remembers Namath, and he remembers those days. And I feel bad that we can't talk to it much. I mean, I could talk about Joe Namath, but I didn't live it. And we don't have any YouTube content providers that I'm aware of that provide, that are on regularly that were there for those days, unfortunately. But we have a lot of guys in the chat that talk about it. So we honor those players from the good old days, specifically Joe Namath and those guys. But yeah, I could reminisce about the early 80s Jets forever, the mid 80s Jets forever, dude, because it's just the right age. That they were my heart, They're my heart not now, but And I didn't even mention Wayne Corbett. You guys, that was one of my first jerseys, real Jet jerseys, and I still have it. It's my oldest jersey that I own and still wear. It's my Wayne Corbett jersey. How do you not love Wayne Corbett, right? I mean, pure heart. One good thing Rich Kotite brought to the New York Jets was Wayne Corbett. He believed in Wayne Corbett. So Ziff, I didn't know you were that old, honestly. So you saw him play at Shea. We sat in the middle bleachers and stomped them to make noise. Wow. Well, you must have been young, though, right? Because you don't seem that old. So I do remember I never saw the Jets play in Shea because my dad wasn't the type to take me to games. So they were out of Shea when I was in middle school. I think 7th grade is when they moved out of Shea Stadium. So I think I was 12, 13. So I had no way to go to a Jet game. Up to that point. I think my oldest brother, Lee, had taken me to a couple of Met games, but we couldn't afford to go to football games. My parents didn't have a lot of money back then. My dad's ended up doing a lot better in the mid 80s. That life got a lot better for us. But coming out of the late 70s recession and all that wasn't the best financial times for us. So we didn't have tons of money to go see football games. I think it was more like 84 that my dad's business really took off and we had a lot more ability to do fun and really great things. So I didn't get to see the Jets until they were in the Meadowlands, and then me and Lee went to a game in the Meadowlands, and man, I'll never forget sitting up in the bleachers in the Meadowlands. That was when you realized what cold felt like. You ever want to realize what it feels like to be cold? You sit in the rafters of the Meadowlands. And not that life is any warmer, but man, sitting in the Meadowlands and that wind, whew, that was cold. You were 8. Oh, really? I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. I started with the Keyshawn pick. I was 8. I remember the Keyshawn Johnson. Throw me the goddamn ball. He was good. You are Joe Theismann's first cousin? If you've ever seen me on TV, you would know it runs in the family. Wow. I think back to Joe Theismann. I obviously remember Super Bowl quarterback, but man, I was at that age. It's hard to get that image out of my head of Joe Theismann when, that last play when Lawrence Taylor fell awkwardly on his leg. I watched that live. I saw that live. And it was like the way Lawrence Taylor bounced up and started calling for medical attention. Even before we saw the replay, you knew. Because the announcers, I think it was Al Michaels or whatever at the time, he said, "Oh no." Because how often do you see that? Lawrence Taylor jumped up like this, head on his helmet going, "Oh my God," and then started waving for the medical team to come in. And then they showed it in slow motion. It was one of the most gruesome plays I've ever seen. Like the way that, I can't even talk about it. I get nauseous. Don't tell Frankie, but I'm on the golf course. So we're going to call you Country Club Braden. But good to see you, Braden. Oh, it's Saturday for you, right? Because it's Friday here, which means like you're a day ahead and a few hours back. So it's Saturday morning for you. Good for you. Hitting the golf course. Yeah, Jets Forever doesn't come here. I don't know why Jets Forever came. I think he came once, and me and Adam just ripped him apart. We're not as patient as Green Bean. I think we just ripped him to shreds. I think Jets Forever was here, and I was like, dude, I just went off on him. I was like, and because he kept on saying that I'm a Zach hater, and those of you know me knows how upsetting and just not true that is. Like everybody that knows me knows how much I love Zach Wilson and how excited I was and how badly I wanted him to succeed. And like to say to somebody that they're a hater for acknowledging what they're watching. Because I never said Zach Wilson could never be great. I never said, oh, he's a fraud, he stinks, he doesn't have talent. I never said that. All I ever said was, Zach Wilson's not playing well. Zach Wilson is not growing enough. He's not getting better. And I'm disappointed and I'm devastated and it's not working. And oh my God, it doesn't look like we hit. And I don't know if he's ever going to be good. All I was saying is the truth of what I was watching. It doesn't make me a Zach hater. It doesn't mean that at no point was I happy about it. At no point was I saying I want him to be bad. At no point was I saying he could never turn it around and he could never be a good quarterback. At no point did I ever say that. I simply commented on what I watched. And 90% of you, probably over 90% of you, know exactly what I'm talking about. There was no way to watch what we watched and not acknowledge that he wasn't playing well. There just wasn't a way. So he decided that I was a hater. And I said, well, if that's the way you feel, get the hell out of here and don't ever come back. I don't need you. And he hasn't come back. So it's just, what it is. Yeah, that's the Joe. I know you're reacting to the Joe Theismann thing, right? It's crazy. So I must have blocked that guy Kareem, and I don't remember him. Like I may have blocked him like a year ago from my channel or something. Because yesterday, everybody was talking about this kid Kareem that was talking all this smack in the chat. And I'm looking at my monitor. I got YouTube running, and I can't see a thing. I'm like, who is this? Who's Kareem? And then I realized, I said, oh, it must be some guy who I blocked years ago. Yeah, so Zach was not playing well at all. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah, and I can't, to appease people. Like, I didn't do this channel. I don't get in front of this camera to lie or to say, not say what I'm feeling. And I can't look at the camera and I can't sit there and say, oh no, Zach played. I still make a little excuses. Oh, I wish his offensive line was better. I wish things would have went a little bit better for him. Maybe Mike LaFleur really was horrible with him as a person. Like, I could say that all day, but at the end of the day, I can't look and sit there and not acknowledge that he did not play well. He played horribly. Most of the time. He had some good moments, but most of the time he played horribly. And I think it was mental because in the times where he was just reactive, like Pittsburgh, fourth quarter, you're down by 10. He's just chucking the ball. He wasn't thinking. And I think that we saw what Zach Wilson could be in those moments. We saw a guy who was throwing lasers. But when he's thinking, when things are going wrong and he comes into the game and he's in his head, yips, like total yips. He was awful. He wasn't functional as a quarterback. And it's just the truth. And I hope there's a way they can help him figure it out. I hope there's a way they can figure it out. The thing that gets me with Zach Wilson is how other people regress too, not just other players in other positions, but even Mike White looked like he was taking a step back each week. Yeah, and that could be on LaFleur. That could just be no offensive line, and we lost the threat of Breece Hall. And it caved their young team, and it just collapsed on them. 1971, that's awesome. I'm near Pitt, so my school liked Pitt, and my whole family liked Dallas. They played well in the Super Bowl. Instead of picking a side, I went with a team. Number 32, we picked Key one that off season. So, wow, it's Kashan. Okay, so, wow, that's amazing that you became in that situation. My brother went to Carnegie Mellon, so I actually, as a kid, got to go to Pittsburgh a few times to visit him. So I have some experience with Pittsburgh. But my brother didn't have the knowledge he wasn't a foodie, I guess, or something. He didn't take me to the Pigmati Brothers or whatever for a sandwich. I don't think I'll ever forgive him for that, because that's something I should have been able to do. Tony Alexio is here. What's going on? I know you love your Streveler, brother. I don't think you're ever gonna see him as our number one quarterback, though. But you might see him on the roster for another year. It could happen. Could be. Chaos, what do you think we do at 13? I think we go at tackle unless there's no one left, unless the guys that JD has on his board are gone. Like, if he has Paris and Broderick as his two guys in his minds, and then everybody else is a lower tier, he might not do it. He might say, well, he might try to trade back, and if he can't trade back, he might take somebody else that slips. Or he might say, I'm taking any of the 4 offensive tackles. He might have 4 guys on his list. I do believe that offensive tackle is the priority with that 13 pick. I do think, that's my opinion of what I think. He could surprise us. Also, we don't know what's going to happen, because if that guy Jalen Carter, you don't know. He might take Clancy or whatever, the kid from Pittsburgh. We might grab him. I mean, any of those things are a possibility. But what do I think? I think that if Broderick Thomas or Paris are on the board, I think you're going to see it happen. I don't know if he's going to go for Pete, because I don't know if he wants a guard. And I think that they might view him as a guard. So I think I'm starting to like listen to Dom C on that. Even though I think that he might be an okay tackle, I think that the NFL might see Pete Skrumkowski as a guard. And I don't think that Anton Harrison or Darnell White or Wright or Darwin Jones, I think those guys are just not going to go at 13. I think that they're all going to be possible late round, first round picks, early second round. They're all capable of making it into the first round, into the 20s. I just don't see it at 13. So I would really think he'd be aggressively trying to trade back if he wants OL and there's no Broderick on the board and there's no Paris on the board. I think he would aggressively trade back if he wanted a tackle, and he would take a tackle after reacquiring a third-round pick to make up for the Elijah Moore trade. That's what I think. Super Leroy with the super chat. There's no message, but when I look at my monitor, there's balloons with the number 1 in it. So thank you. I appreciate it. And you've been a great supporter of the channel. So I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate you supporting and watching all my videos. Thank you very much, sir. CMU is a great school. Yeah, if you could touch on pick 13, if you were GM. Oh, well, I kind of just answered that, so you heard it. But yeah, I mean, look, you have to have a partner to trade. I have no problem Jalen Carter if he's there. I have no problem Broderick Jones if he's there. Parrish Jr., whatever, Johnson Jr., if he's there. No problem with those guys. If those guys aren't there, which they probably won't, so they shouldn't be. If those guys aren't there, I really, if I'm the GM, I'm looking to trade back. Because why would I take Anton Harrison there? Or like, why would I take Juwan Jones there or Darnell White there? Like, it doesn't make sense. I'd much rather get like a 3rd round pick, a pick for next year. I don't know if we'll get a 1st next year and a 3rd this year. I don't know, because I don't know if there's players available that teams will give that much to trade up for. But I can imagine us getting a 2nd round pick next year, which would be really helpful if we have to give a 2nd round to the Green Bay next year, because that means we can give them a 2nd rounder this year and a 2nd rounder next year and still have our own 2nd rounders. So I would really be stoked about that. If we got a team and we jump back to 22, 23 in the draft and we got a 3rd round pick this year and replaced our 3rd round pick, like 75 or something like that, or 70, and we gained that pick. And next year got a 2nd round pick. So now we have that ammunition to give Green Bay one of them and still hold on to our 2nd round next year. And then we go back and we still get an Anton Harrison, and we still get a Dwight, whatever, Juwan Jones or whatever it is, Darnell. I would be very happy with that. That would be a huge win for me. So that's what I'm doing as a GM. That would be my mindset as a GM. The only thing that throws all that off is if Jalen Carter is there. I don't know if I could pass up on a talent like that. I think Jalen Carter is arguably the best player in the entire draft with Will Anderson. I mean, it's a debate because quarterback is always overvalued. Any of those quarterbacks could be good. Any of them could be busts. There's no Andrew Luck in this draft. There's no Peyton Manning in this draft. There's no guy where I say that's a generational quarterback. Oh my God, you got to take him. All 4 of them could be very good, or all 4 of them could be busts. We don't know how it's going to work out. So to me, Will Anderson and Jalen Carter are the 2 best players in this draft. And you could debate back and forth. Depends what you need, what you want. But those are the 2 guys. So if one of the top 2 players in the entire draft is sitting there at 13, it's very hard for me not to say you have to grab him. I mean, you stick him next to Quinnen Williams, and it is disgusting. That's the only word I could say. It's disgusting. I cannot imagine lining up Jalen Carter and Quinnen Williams. And let's say it's 3rd down passing situation and you have freaking Bryce Huff and Corey and Carl Lawson lined up like that. Or if you're in a passing situation and you have JFM, JJ, and Quinnen and this kid in the middle. Oh my God. It's disgusting. It's like we will terrorize teams. We will terrorize them. So, I would just that's what I would feel like I have to do. So, Jeremy coming in late. Did you eat the pastel? Is my favorite Puerto Rican food. Did you ever eat a pastel? No, I can't say that I have. I lived on the Upper West Side, so it was mostly Dominican restaurants. So I did have the black sesame, the chicken with the black sesame seed sauce. What's it called? I forgot the name of that dish. And the pork chops. You go into these Dominican restaurants and you can get 2 giant pork chops and the mofongo and the beans, the rice and beans, for $10. And I swear to you, it was 2 meals. You couldn't even finish it. And then the pollo or arroz con pollo, the chicken and rice in these Dominican restaurants are just sick. $10, you get a tray, you take it home. It's 2 meals, and it's the most delicious food. But I can't say that I ate at Pastel's. I don't know them. I wasn't an expert on what to order either. I was just very typical. Like I would order chicken and rice, you know, like black bean. I think it was black bean sauce, chicken and black bean sauce, and mofongo and whatever. But no, I can't say I'm much. I can't claim to be an expert on that kind of food. Like I didn't know which restaurants to seek out when I lived in New York. I am very aggressive in seeking out the best Mexican food here in California. I read about all the food trucks. I go to the best Mexican food trucks. Sacramento Mexican restaurants are awful, but like we're 35 minutes out of Lodi and Stockton, and they got some great restaurants out there. I'm a burrito guy anyway. I'm not that hard to please. Just give me a really good burrito, chicken and rice with some freaking guacamole and sour cream, salsa. I'm a happy guy. It had me start thinking about DT today. Ben Jones. Yeah, if we sign Jones and had him at center, then it definitely takes a lot of pressure off the draft, because then you don't have to take a center in the draft, or you can gamble. That's what I like. I like the idea if we sign Jones that we would still want a center, but we don't have to go the first 2 rounds. We can wait to the 4th round and gamble. And if there's no one there, then do nothing. We have Jones. But if Stromberg or someone like that slips in the 4th round, you grab him and you secure the position for years to come. Or you sign Jones and you get a Villa, and then you have a guard depth. You have great depth at guard because he can play any guard position, and then he's your future center. So there's a lot of different things we can do. But after the draft, whether it comes through free agency, I mean, at some point we have to know who our center is and know that it's a real guy, and we need some depth on that offensive line. Like for right now, it's just too much risk. It's too much not knowing what's going on. Like, is Becton going to stay healthy? Is Dwayne Brown got anything left in the tank? He's so old now. And did he heal? Is his shoulder better? And Max Mitchell, what caused the blood clots? Is that problem done? I mean, there's so many questions. Just to get a Broderick Jones and just end the discussion would be really nice. Just to know we got Broderick Jones, and then one of the 3 guys is going to work out. Either Dwayne Brown will play, Max Mitchell will be ready, or Becton will stay healthy. And then we have Becton and Jones, and then lights out. AVT coming back, get our center. Suddenly the weakest spot on the offensive line is Laken Tomlinson, and I know he was horrible last year, but at least we know with good guys around him in this system, Laken Tomlinson has the capability of playing well. He did it in San Francisco for several years, and we have an offensive line coach that's going to hold him accountable, and we'll bench him if he doesn't and bring in a guy like Avia if that's who we end up drafting. Love those versatile guys that can play any of the positions, right? Because then even if you have a position filled, you could use them somewhere else, or they could just be that depth piece where you have the security of, we have this kid that can come and fill in any position where we have an injury. Because we're Jet fans. We know that as we watch Jet games, there's going to be a play where one of our offensive linemen goes down and gets hurt. We know it. Hopefully it won't be like it was last year and happen constantly. But we know we're not going to go throughout the season without that happening. There's going to be a play where after the play we say, oh, shit. And there's a little pile around one of our players. And who is it? Who is it? And someone's going to be hurt. So I don't want anything to ruin this season. We need to have depth. We need to have guys that we can bring in if an offensive lineman goes down where we still believe we can contend. We're not fooling ourselves like last year when we were like freaking guys off the scrap heap were playing. Our entire offensive line was freaking like an infirmary. You just realized that you look like the love child of Jake Asman and Matt O'Leary. You do look a little Irish in your picture there. That's funny. Go back down here. Who don't you want to hang out with us in here? Jake belongs at the... Oh, Super Leroy, you don't like Jake, huh? Jake wouldn't come here because I think he is too big for my channel in his mind. Like, he's not enough of a friend. Like, O'Leary, it doesn't matter how big O'Leary is. O'Leary is a friend. So Matt O'Leary is going to come into my show once in a while out of just friendship. You know what I mean? Like, just based on that, he's going to come in and say, I'm going to do my friend a favor and come onto his channel. I have no relationship like that with Jake Asman. So, and the only thing that would interest Jake Asman in my channel is if I jump to 15,000 subs. Then suddenly he might say, "Ooh, there's some opportunity there for me." I'm not blaming him. I'm not trying to attack him right now. I understand. This is his living. It's a business for him, right? So his time is money. Any minute that he could be on my channel, Jake Asman could be on his own channel making money. So I get it. Like, I'm not complaining about it. But with Matt O'Leary, it's different because the thought process is, well, I'm friends with Jeremy. So like, we're friends. So he genuinely wants to help me and will come onto my channel sometimes to do that. You know, I also think we have a good time. I think me, Matt, and Green Bean and Ryan at halftime during games, even though I don't say much when they're there, I think we've had good times together. So I think it's fun. So that's part of it too. But I can't lie to you, Super Leroy. You might not like him, but if Jake Asman ever said to me that he wants to be on my channel, I can't turn him down. I would let him on my channel. I'm sorry. You know, same goes with like Ian, Jet Central. He doesn't know me from anything. But if he ever said you could be, hey Chaos, you want to come on my channel? Or Chaos, I would love to come hang out with you and chill on your channel. There's no way I could say no to him. You know what I mean? I'd be like, yeah, you could do that. The closest I ever got to getting Ian to know me on Jet Central is I did a parody of him once. I made a fun video of me imitating him, reacting to something, and I sent him the link on Twitter to it and said, hey, I'm not trying to offend you. You know, I did this out of admiration, and he liked it. Like, he gave me the little love heart sign on Twitter. So I think he actually watched it. So that was kind of nice. And then maybe sometimes I get to meet these guys in backstage for the Thursday Thick of It on Green Bean Show. Like, Jake Asman comes on, so he sees me backstage chatting, you know, all the super chats and doing the work that I do. And he's seeing my name like crazy. So he knows who I am. If you say Jets Chaos, he definitely knows that there's a person named Jets Chaos. But I just don't think there's any sentiment of friendship towards me at all. Let's just say that. I appreciate that, and I'll take it. I think I offer something different that really I can honestly argue is better for the right person. I think Jake offers something that if you're looking for something specific that he offers, that he might be considered much better than me. But I also think that I offer something that for some people, obviously Duncan, that I do. I offer something he doesn't. That's the idea. You have to be a little different. I'm not trying to imitate Jake Asman and be Jake Asman because I'll get crushed because he's obviously very, very good at what he specifically does. And that's not me. And I can't compete with him at that level. But I could do the things that I do. And, you know, and that works fine. So, you know what I mean? And to me, he could have 600-700 people watching him and streaming, and I could have 40. The difference is my 40 people get to be heard. My 40 people get to be the part of the conversation. My 40 people get to control the show and offer content to the show. Whereas, and it's not his fault, he has 650 people. There's no way he could promise that. You know, he can only get through the super chats even. So there's a difference right there. Sometimes smaller is better in that sense. And the bigger you get, the harder it is to maintain that personal connection. So, but, you know, I certainly admire the fact that I think he's probably making a living doing this. And I'm not even close to that. So I'm envious of that. I'm not going to lie. I would love to be able to make a living doing this. I'd love to do this every day. You know what I mean? I'd love to sit here every day and just do this for a living. Unfortunately, it'd be hard to have both, like the small kind of mom and pop boutique channel and make enough money to make a living. Although one day I'll be able to retire and then that's what will happen. Money won't matter. So I'll just be here for you guys and we'll just hang out whenever we want. Chaos about your 40 people. We love you. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Quality over quantity. I have the best people. My people are the best. My people are my friends. So the last I spoke to Frankie, I texted him, and he he basically told me what we've been saying. Like I said, hey, I don't want to say things about you that you don't support. I don't want to say anything wrong. But people ask about you all the time. What do I tell them? And Frankie told me very specifically. He said, tell everybody that health wise, like as a person or whatever, I'm fine. So Frankie is fine. And he goes, tell them I'm taking a break from YouTube. I said, okay. Now, just to add to that without getting too specific, because I don't have the specifics and I don't know this detail, I can only tell you what I know from my friendship with Frankie and what I know about Frankie is that Frankie, much like myself, and we had conversations about it, I don't like it either. One of the hard things about doing this is not everybody, like some people, it could bounce right off of them. But when people are mean and people say personal things and attack you, Frankie didn't like that because that's not who Frankie is. So it's very hard for him to understand why, if people didn't like his show or didn't agree with something he said, why people had to get vicious and attack him. And I think that got to him. I think so. I do think that's a true statement because I've shared that with him. We've had that mutual conversation about that. I don't know if that's why he's not on, but I'm just saying it was definitely something that weighed on him. But I do believe that the main reason he's not on is because we had a pandemic where we got to work from home and we had a lot more flexibility with our work schedules. And then we had to go back. And for some of us, going back means not having as much time to do the show. And Frankie's a guy who cares about quality. Frankie really cares. So to me, in my opinion, Frankie doesn't do things half-assed. If he can't do it 100% to the quality that he believes it should be done, he's not going to do it at all. So hopefully something will happen where his schedule changes back and he gets into a position in his life where he can go back on YouTube, because Frankie brought something very unique that I don't think exists without him. He had a special style and a way of presenting facts and information and collecting data that I don't think anybody else does. So it's all of our loss. Rumors of Landry going to Green Bay make me wonder if a wide receiver is part of a Rodgers trade comp. Green Bay has spoken to multiple wide receivers but cannot commit to pay until Rodgers' deal is done. Stay tuned. Yeah, I mean, look, that's the leverage we have on Green Bay having to get this deal done. It's not just that they want the draft picks for this year's draft, but they're in handcuffs. They can't make any moves. They're stuck. So that's no good for them. And then as far as, whatever. I mean, I think that they, I really believe that they're going to want Corey Davis to be part of that deal. Like, I think it makes so much sense. I think it makes so much sense for Corey Davis to be part of our deal that we make with Green Bay. I don't know that it's going to happen. I'm just saying it makes a lot of sense. I think he's a good fit for Green Bay. I do. Similar system. He's going to come in knowing the routes and all that stuff. He'll be fine with LaFleur, the head coach there. Veteran in the room. I'm not one of those guys that screams that Corey Davis is great, makes excuses for his play. I'm also not a guy that's going to say he sucks. I'm a guy who says that Corey Davis is a good football player. He's not a perfect football player, and he made some mistakes. He had bad drops. He got hurt a lot, so he had trouble staying on the field. But I'm not going to go as far as say he's not a good football player. He's a good football player. Right now he might have dropped. We thought high-end WR2, low-end, like WR1, that may change. Now he might be more of WR2 on some teams, but more WR3. Like you want to have two better receivers than him on your team at this point, especially with him getting older and having these injury problems. But a healthy Corey Davis is a good football player. I will say that. I'll argue that all day. Is he going to be sorely missed? No. We got Lazard. We got Garrett Wilson. We got this kid from Kansas City, specific role. He's going to take the top off of the defense. I think we need another guy. I don't know if it's going to be Odell. Like, I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but we'll figure it out. And I think if we hold on to Corey Davis, it's fine. Then we'll have we'll have Garrett Wilson, we'll have Lazard, we'll have Corey Davis, we'll have I never know his name, the kid from Kansas City, Hardman, and then we'll have Mims. And I won't give up on Mims. I'm not saying Mims is going to be a star, but I still think Mims could be a positive contributor to the team and a depth piece. I do. Half a burrito for you for being a humble Jets fan, like the rest of us. I add that I think Joe plugs holes pre-drafts so he can go best player available. Needs are fluid. Yeah, I look. I love that plan. I couldn't agree more that would be something I'm excited about. When we got Clark at safety, I was very excited about that because to me it took away the gushing blood need for a safety. It doesn't mean that I'm saying we will definitely not take a safety in the later rounds, but it definitely took the edge off, the pressure off. Same thing if we sign Quan Alexander. It takes the pressure off for linebacker. If we sign Jones at center, it takes the pressure off. It doesn't mean we don't draft a young center. It just means that we don't have the gun to our head to do it in the first 2 rounds. So I agree. The more guys the more holes we could fill through free agency that doesn't break our wallet, the more we could go into this draft and just add a superstar, like add a really like a key player, because we don't have to think about position. We just take that great player. And it might not be a guy that we see coming. I trust JD in our scouting. It's whoever they love. If they fall in love with a player that they think is going to be an impact player, they've proven themselves to me. I'm going to trust them. I'm not very high on Najigma. I don't think we should take a wide receiver because in this class in the first round. But if we end up taking Najigma, if we actually made that selection or we took Hyatt, we traded back and took Hyatt in the first round. If we do something like that, I will trust JD. I will say, okay, they believe in this guy at a different level. They see something that I didn't see, and I'm going to watch the tape and I'm going to hear what they say about him, and I'm going to root for him and be excited about him. Because that's what a fan does. So, but yeah, I hope we fill as many holes. Thank you, Dane, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Just like it helps the channel, man. So I really appreciate the super chat. The super chats, it's super thoughtful. So I appreciate those of you that are able to that do it. Thank you. Yeah, man, I love me some Clark. Man. You know, I think he's part of the reason. You know, it's one of the best moves of the offseason. You know, it was no risk. It's risk free. Cost us nothing. I mean, overall, it's just a great move. So, Hader Ali, hey brother, I'm about 1 hour 50 minutes behind on the stream. Figure I'd say hello and let you know I'm here as always. Love you, brother. Hope your family's good. Take care. I don't say it enough to those of you that don't watch live, that aren't in the chat. Like for those of you that watch replays or that are behind, that are listening, appreciate all of you for watching and supporting the channel. I know it because when the shows end, it's like 300 views, and then like 2 days later, I look at it, 700 views. I'm like, well, it's 400 people. I don't know how much of the show they watch, but the 400 people clicked on this thing and watched some percentage of it. So I want to make sure those 400 people feel appreciated and thanked, because that does help. It helps the channel. It helps everything. So I appreciate all of you. Hey, I've been on for over 3 hours. So let me say hello to Wrong Verb. He's a great dude. And then let me get out of here. I imagine a line of Becton, Stronsky, Michael Smith, ABT, and a healthy, John Smith, you mean, okay, and a healthy Max Mitchell for the next 10 years. That's crazy. That's actually possible. That'd be awesome. And I like that you have Skoronski at guard, right? And AVT is the guards, and you have Schmitz in the middle at center. And then you have Max Mitchell and Becton on the ends. And I could see it. Becton might end up being a very good tackle. The way he played as a rookie, all the potential is there for him to be a very, very good tackle. Dano, I see what you're saying about that. I don't know. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to see if there's a way to make the chat accessible. I think that I don't know if there's a way to do it. is my answer. I think that it just has to be the comments. But I'm going to look into it and see if there's a way that the chat could be accessible. But I think that I'm not going to see those comments you make when you watch it back a second time. I think it's going to show it in the comments, not as a chat, because it's not like I'm going to open up and watch my own show and look in the chat for new chats. But I know that you can comment on the video, and there are people who do that. They watch back the show and they make comments, like overall video comments, as they're watching. So, but I will look into it. I'll see if there's a button that I could press that says like allow chat during playback. If there's a button like that, I will hit it. I have no reason not to, especially if that's what you guys want. I also want to figure out how to turn this into a podcast, because I know there's a lot of people say they want to listen when they're driving. I don't know how to do that. I think I have to have StreamYard send it out to like a podcast technology, or take the recording of this on StreamYard and upload it into a podcast. And then maybe I'll put the podcast link in the description. So that's going to take some work and some time for me to figure all out, but I'm going to try to add all these things. It's time for me to grow up as a channel and start offering the things that people need, or want. So thanks, guys. Thanks for the positive comments. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. I'm just a person like you. So when you have people say nice things to you, it means a lot. Really do appreciate it. Yeah, Modine is saying what I thought. Like, I think you could see the chat, but I think he wants to be able to contribute and speak in the chat. And I think that's what I don't know if is possible. I think you just have to leave comments. But thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It's time for me to go. My wife's probably thinking, man, I didn't tell her I'd be on for 3 hours. Like, this is my whole day off, and I used it to be streamed. But you know what? I love doing this more than anything. So what's the big deal? But anyway, take care, everybody, and I'll leave you with this.
Don't not be Thibodeau. And here it comes. It's about to come in. Oh, my God. They didn't. They took Sauce Gardner. Oh, my God. They don't want an edge. Maybe he likes Jermaine Johnson at 10. Then we're not going to get a wide receiver?
Garrett Wilson, wide receiver. Oh my God, no edge.
Sitting there.
The Jets traded up. Are we taking JJ? Because I know Braden is in New Zealand saying, we should get Lily, Mike. He's definitely saying that. JJ! We got Johnson at 26! This is great! Yes! They took Roger McCreary, they didn't take Dean, and we traded up. We can get to Kobe Dean. It really is. They took Breece Hall. Wow. I mean, look, I love Breece Hall. But there's also Jeremy Ruckert, who I think is the best tight end in the class personally. They took Jeremy Ruckert. Yes! We got a Jeremy. Oh, and the Jets pick, and it's Max Mitchell, offensive tackle. We needed that. Wow. We took Michael Clemens. I never heard of him. A defensive edge